Close your eyes. Let the outside world soften at the edges. The noise will be there in the morning, but for now, let it slip like mist through your fingers. You're not here by accident. Something, maybe curiosity, maybe intuition, has led you to this moment. And as strange as it sounds, the very fact that you're hearing these words may be the first sign that your timeline is beginning to shift. Have you ever had that feeling, right before you fall asleep, when reality begins to blur and you can't quite tell if you're drifting into a dream or waking from one? That's where we're going tonight. Into that in-between space where patterns unfold like whispers and the future begins its quiet rewrite. Not in loud ways, not with lightning or trumpets, but in moments so soft, so delicate that most people miss them completely, but not you, not anymore. Your subconscious has already noticed. It's been tracking the repeating stranger, the one who shows up again and again, different jacket, different city, same eyes. You brush past them on the subway. You order coffee beside them. You lock eyes in a mirror's reflection, and something inside you jolts, like you've seen them before in a life that never happened. That's not coincidence, that's a marker, a timestamp from a future that's looping back to warn you this moment matters. And tonight as you fall into sleep, we'll go deeper into those moments, into the echoes, the anomalies, the signals from across the veil, because they're everywhere, and once you start seeing them, you can't unsee them. You'll begin to realize that reality isn't a single thread, it's a tapestry, layered, woven with memory, thought, energy, and yes, choice. Some versions of you, the ones you left behind, the ones you're still becoming, they're choosing too, and sometimes they reach across. So let yourself relax even more deeply now. Breathe gently, like the universe is exhaling through you. Every breath is a permission slip. You're giving your body permission to rest, and your soul permission to remember. You may start to feel the edge of something, a presence, maybe, a light tingling at the base of your spine. That's normal. That's your energy beginning to respond to the shift. Because we're not just going to talk tonight, we're going to move through dimensions, through patterns. You're going to notice things you've always noticed but never understood, like why you wake up at 3:33 in the morning with your heart racing, or why just before a major event in your life you seem to see the same number over and over again. That's called the time-bend pulse. It's a signal, a flashpoint, a ripple from another version of you sending a vibration back to warn or guide the you who is listening now. And you are listening, aren't you? Somewhere deep inside, beyond your conscious thoughts, your awareness has already tuned itself to a new channel, a frequency just beneath the noise. And the more you relax, the louder it becomes, though it doesn't sound like sound at all. It sounds like knowing frequency jump phenomenon is something most people dismiss. You might hear your name in static or think someone called out to you just as you're drifting off to sleep. It's easy to rationalize, to ignore. But what if I told you those were messages from adjacent realities? Fragments bleeding through from paths not taken, voices of parallel selves brushing against the thin veil that separates your current stream of time from all the others still flowing beside you. You're not hallucinating. You're hearing a dimensional echo. And when that echo repeats, when the name or word or phrase shows up again in a dream or a memory or a song playing faintly from a passing car, you should know that you've reached a threshold. You're approaching an intersection where two futures meet. And the version of you that listens, that pays attention, that honors the whisper, that version gets to choose. There's something else you've probably felt too. It happens in dreams, especially the ones where you fall, fast, suddenly, and just before you hit the ground you wake up gasping, heart pounding. That's not just a nightmare. That's a dream exit sequence. It's what happens when your subconscious forcibly ejects you from a path that no longer serves you. The falling, that's you detaching from a destructive timeline. The jolt awake, That's your soul snapping you back into safer alignment. And when you wake, everything feels different. You may not know it right away, but your future just shifted. A fork in the road closed and you were rerouted, because something deeper within you knew. You've always known, but now you're starting to remember. Let your shoulders soften. Let your jaw unclench. This is your time now, the realm of half-sleep, where change begins not with action, but awareness. Because tonight, your subconscious is becoming your compass. Have you ever counted stairs in a dream? Maybe not deliberately, but try to remember. Have you dreamt of descending a staircase, step by step, and each one felt heavy with meaning? You didn't know how many there would be, but somehow you knew it mattered. Some people believe that the number of stairs in those dreams isn't random, that they represent days, like a metaphysical countdown to a pivotal moment in your waking life, an encounter, a loss, a revelation. And when that moment comes, you feel it, not in your mind, but in your body. Like reality clicked, like your life for just a second made a sound, a low hum, a soft flash, something sacred. That's the staircase signal, a coded transmission from the infinite possible futures into the dreamscape you visit nightly. And every time you forget your dream, that's not failure, that's protection. Some messages don't need to be remembered consciously. They're already working deep in the soil of your becoming. So, sleep deeper now. The veil is thinning, and your awareness is beginning to drift like mist into places your body cannot follow. You are being rewritten, softly, quietly, beautifully. You've seen it before, the strange timing of it. Thinking about someone, and they text you. Glancing at a number and then seeing it again and again on receipts, clocks, license plates. A song that follows you into 3 different rooms. A phrase you overheard that shows up later in a dream. Moments so odd, so precise, that part of you pauses and asks, what are the odds? But what if the odds have nothing to do with it? What if you stopped thinking of these things as coincidences and started seeing them as correspondence? Because what we call coincidence might actually be coherence. The universe speaks in frequency, in repetition, in pattern. It doesn't shout, it doesn't explain, it nudges, it arranges, it composes. Like a dream playing itself out in waking form, one clue at a time. And when the same symbols appear again and again, across different places, different people, different moments, that's not randomness. That's resonance. Carl Jung called it synchronicity. He said it was the meeting point between the inner and outer worlds, where your thoughts, feelings, and memories align with external events in ways that defy logic but feel deeply meaningful. Not causality, but acausality. Events not linked by cause and effect but by something more mysterious, symbolic necessity, the pattern. You don't cause a coincidence, you attract it. Or maybe more accurately, you collapse it into your timeline, like a wave into a particle. Because something inside you is in alignment with the message it carries. Synchronicity is not just a wink from the universe. It is punctuation in the sentence of time, a period, a comma, an ellipsis. It tells you when to pause, when to listen, when to change direction, think back. How many times have you ignored these nudges only to realize later that you were being guided? That the universe left breadcrumbs and you walked past them distracted? Maybe it was a job you almost took, a person you felt drawn to but never called, a song that felt like prophecy but you brushed off as mood. And maybe you needed to miss it then so you could learn to notice it now. Because here's what synchronicity requires: presence. And tonight, as your body begins to drift, your presence is sharpening. Not your physical presence, but that quiet, inner witness. The part of you that watches your thoughts pass like clouds. The part of you that listens to what isn't said, that notices patterns even when your eyes are closed. You may already feel it. A memory surfacing, a phrase echoing in your head. Something you saw earlier today, returning now like a tide. These aren't distractions, they're anchors, invitations, echoes of the next clue. When something repeats, pay attention. When something returns, pay attention. When you get chills for no reason, pay attention. You are not imagining it, you are recognizing it. Because the energy that creates synchronicity doesn't originate in the outer world, it flows from you, from your vibration. Your thoughts are not silent, they are signals. They ripple through the field of consciousness and pull experiences toward them like magnets. That's why two people can walk into the same room and see entirely different realities. One sees a trap, the other sees a doorway. One sees boredom, the other sees a sign. So let me ask you something now as you begin to slip further into this half-dreaming state. What if every so-called coincidence in your life was actually a message from you? From a higher you, a future you, a parallel you who's already lived the version of this moment that you're still choosing? And what if that version of you is trying to guide you, gently, through codes hidden in plain sight? You know the feeling, that quiet shiver of familiarity, that sense of being exactly where you're supposed to be. Even if it doesn't make logical sense, the room is wrong, the timing is odd, but something fits. That's not logic. That's alignment. And when alignment occurs, synchronicity blooms. Not just once, not just twice, but in cascades, in waves. You see the number, then the name, then the sign, one after another until it feels like the entire world is breathing with you, responding to your inner state in real time. Because it is. You are not separate from your experience, you are the consciousness projecting it. And when your frequency changes, your outer world adapts to match. So ask yourself, when did the synchronicities in your life increase? Was it during a time of clarity or chaos? Was it when you made a big decision, or when you let go of something that no longer served you? Often synchronicity swells just before transformation, like a whisper before a thunderstorm, like a preview of what's coming if you just keep listening. And here's a secret. Synchronicity is not just a sign that something is about to change. It is the change. It is the shift beginning to ripple outward. It is your consciousness folding back into itself and leaving markers along the path, like flares in the fog. Follow them, trust them, even when they don't make sense. Because reason speaks in sentences, but the soul speaks in symbols. That dream you keep having, that name that keeps repeating, that book that keeps finding its way into your hands, none of it is meaningless. It's a code, a constellation of signs pointing toward a version of your future that is asking to be remembered. Because you've lived this moment before. Maybe not in this exact form, in this exact world, but your soul recognizes the feeling. And recognition is the first step toward awakening. So tonight, let's reframe the impossible. Let's say, there are no coincidences. There is only timing. There is only energy aligning with energy. There is only you, watching yourself wake up, one sign at a time. So, if you hear this message, and you feel something stir, even faintly, inside your chest, it's not the voice, it's the signal. The signal that you're listening now with new ears. And the next time something strange happens, the next time a number follows you, or a stranger says exactly what you were just thinking, don't brush it off. Don't laugh it away. Pause, smile, and whisper to yourself, I saw that. Because the more you acknowledge the signs, the more they multiply. Synchronicity loves attention, so give it yours. And as you sleep tonight, your awareness will drift softly toward the future that's already waiting, the one you're aligned with now, the one you're rewriting with every breath. You're doing it already. You just needed to remember. Think about time, not as a line, but as a spiral. You've been taught to think of your life as a timeline, birth at one end, death at the other. Events unfolding one after another like beads on a string. But that's not how your soul experiences reality. That's how the mind makes sense of it. In truth, time doesn't move forward. It curves, it folds, it loops back on itself like a spiral staircase you've walked before, but from a different level, a different angle. Each moment isn't brand new. It's a pattern returning, whispering, "You've been here before." And sometimes your future arrives early, not with a knock on the door, but as a symbol, a sound, a scent, a shape. A moment of stillness so heavy with familiarity it feels like déjà vu, except it's not your past you're remembering. It's your future echoing back through the fabric of now. Have you ever had a dream that didn't make sense? Until months later, when the exact scene played out in real life? That wasn't a dream. That was a timestamp. A ripple from the you that will be folding into the you that is. Your future isn't waiting at the end of a line, it's vibrating around you constantly, and the deeper you listen the more it speaks, but not in words. The future rarely speaks in language, it speaks in symbols. You walk into a bookstore, and a cover seems to glow, you don't know why, but you buy it. And weeks later, one sentence from that book changes the way you see everything. That wasn't random. That was a seed. Or you hear a word in a conversation and it sticks in your mind like honey on your fingers. You don't know what it means, but it feels charged, electric, alive. That word may appear again, on a billboard, in a song, in a passing stranger's sentence. That's a loop. Your subconscious is picking up messages long before your mind catches on. Because your body, your dreams, your intuition, they're all instruments tuned to frequencies your conscious awareness can't yet translate. And when something from your future is important, life-altering, timeline-defining, it sends a pulse backward, like a sonar ping. The effect is subtle, but you feel it. You'll suddenly crave a place you've never been, feel sadness for something that hasn't happened, smell something that reminds you of a memory you don't remember. Those aren't errors. They're prejus. You're not sensing the past. You're brushing up against a version of the future that's already happened in another layer of the spiral. And if you pay attention to those moments, if you follow the echo, you might find that it leads somewhere very specific. To a choice. A person. A version of you waiting to be remembered. Let's go deeper. Have you ever had a strong feeling about a decision, even when it made no logical sense? A voice telling you not to take that job, or to call that person, or to go left instead of right. That wasn't fear. That was memory, the kind of memory that comes not from the past, but from what your soul already knows is coming. You see, your higher self exists outside of time. It's watching all your possible lives at once. It doesn't guess. It remembers. And when it sees you approaching a pivotal moment, it sends messages. Symbols. Feelings. Dreams. That quiet voice that says, "This is important." And the more you listen, the more precise the symbols become. You'll start to notice patterns, objects, animals, songs, numbers, that show up exactly when you're on the verge of something big. They'll become your personal code, your reality's way of speaking directly to you. Because the universe doesn't use one language, it uses yours. And your job is to pay attention. Let's say, for example, that every time you're about to shift timelines, every time a new version of your future is starting to lock in, you see a black butterfly. Maybe you think it's just a coincidence. But what if it's not? What if that butterfly is a flag planted by your future self, waving to get your attention? What if every time you see it, it's because something important is about to happen, or is already happening, and your awareness in that moment is what will determine how far the shift can go? Now imagine learning that language. Imagine collecting your symbols like a private alphabet. The cat that always shows up when you're about to hear from someone you've forgotten. The light that flickers when your energy is shifting. The smell of lavender that only appears when you're in alignment with your true path. It's not fantasy. It's frequency. and your subconscious already knows the pattern. That's why dreams feel so loaded, so symbolic, because that's when your mind finally steps aside, and your deeper knowing is allowed to speak. But here's something even more important. Symbols don't just come to you. You send them too. Your thoughts, your emotions, your desires, they emit waves, and those waves attract corresponding experiences into your life, not by magic, but by resonance. When you think with focus, when you feel with intensity, when you visualize with clarity, you're not just hoping. You're coding. And the symbols that return to you are answers, clues, markers that your signal has been received, and the new version of your future is beginning to organize itself around you. So if tonight, as you drift into sleep, an image repeats in your mind, don't dismiss it. If a phrase keeps echoing, write it down. If you see a face, a place, or a number, pause, because it's not random, it's an invitation. Your future is always speaking to you in symbols, in sensations, in dreams. And the more you trust those whispers, the louder they become. So let yourself drift now. Let your mind dissolve into softness. You don't have to chase the signs. Just notice, because even now, your future is echoing back to you. It's already written, and it's waiting to be read. The clock on your wall is lying to you, not out of malice, but because it only tells a sliver of the story. It shows you seconds falling in a line, but time doesn't move in a line. Time folds, it ripples, it loops. Imagine a spiral galaxy, each swirl a different possibility of your life, orbiting a center you can't quite see. That center is now, this moment, this breath, and everything else, past, future, alternate, is spinning around it, sometimes close, sometimes far. And occasionally, one of those future spirals brushes against your present. When that happens, you feel it, a chill, a flash of recognition, a sudden clarity that doesn't belong to logic. You call it intuition, but it's not just a gut feeling. It's a download, a future memory surfacing before its time. You've already lived so many versions of this life. In one you turned left instead of right. In another you said yes when you were supposed to say no, and in each one your future sent ripples backward, symbols, fragments, shadows. Because even though your mind forgets, your deeper self remembers. You remember in dreams, in songs that bring tears for reasons you can't explain, in objects that feel heavy with meaning even though they're ordinary. A photograph, a coin, a feather in a place it doesn't belong. These aren't decorations. They're signals, flares from the unseen. When you become aware of these signals, something strange begins to happen. The fabric of time starts to loosen, not in a dramatic way, not like movies with wormholes or portals. It happens in softer, stranger ways. You'll think of someone and they'll call. You'll feel a pull to go somewhere and find a message waiting. You'll dream of a room you've never seen and walk into it years later. And when it happens, your body knows first, not your brain. You'll feel it in your spine. You'll feel it in the hairs on your arms. You'll feel it in your breath, catching just slightly, like you've stepped into a moment you forgot you were writing. That's the echo. That's the symbol whispering back. Your senses are more than biological tools. They are antennas. They pick up on vibrations long before your thoughts decode them. So when you get chills, when your ears ring, when your eyes catch something glowing in the corner of ordinary reality, it's not a glitch. It's you tuning in. And there's one more layer. Not only does your future echo back to you in symbols, it rearranges your current reality to deliver them. Let that settle for a moment. The sign you needed, the answer to your question, the solution to a problem you hadn't even voiced yet. All of it can and does appear when you begin to listen and surrender. Because here's the truth. Your future is not fixed, it's fluid, and your awareness is the sculptor. Every time you become conscious of a symbol, you strengthen that future's gravitational pull. Every time you ignore one, the spiral shifts like water moving around a stone. And that means you're not a passenger, you are the participant. You are the co-author. So ask yourself, what symbols have followed you through your life? What images, numbers, or dreams seem to orbit your experience again and again? It's not an accident. They are coordinates, anchors, that connect you to specific potentialities. And when you finally begin to treat them like messages instead of coincidences, you unlock the deeper map. You begin to live with the spiral instead of against it. You begin to remember that the person you are becoming has always been speaking to you, not in the language of logic, but in the poetry of patterns, the rhythm of feeling, the pulse of meaning that doesn't make sense until it does. So tonight, as your mind continues to soften, let yourself drift into the fractal. Let the memories rise like waves. Let the sensations guide you. And when a symbol returns, when you see that color or hear that name or feel that pulse of electricity in your chest, don't turn away. Turn toward it. Because that's your future, echoing back. You are already walking the path. You just haven't seen the full spiral yet. But soon, you will. You see them, maybe not often, maybe only once every few months, or maybe, somehow, they've shown up in every city you've ever lived in. You don't know their name. Maybe you've never even spoken. But something about them sticks. The way they looked at you, the way they moved, the sense that you'd seen them before, somewhere outside of this world, maybe in a dream, maybe in another version of this life. They are the stranger who keeps reappearing, a face in the crowd, a fleeting presence in the corner of your vision, the same barista in 3 different coffee shops, the man who passed you on the street in spring and again in autumn, same coat, same eyes, different town. This is the repeating stranger. And they are not random. In a simulated or layered reality, certain figures don't play the same role as background characters. They are markers. Glitches, yes, but meaningful ones, recurring placeholders for important shifts. You might call it coincidence. But what if it's an embedded pattern? A cosmic nod? What if the stranger appears when you're about to change timelines, like a checkpoint before the portal opens? Most people ignore them. You've done it too. You notice the face, you feel the jolt, and then you forget. But the soul doesn't forget. Your subconscious logs it as something important. And later, when you look back, you realize something changed after you saw them. A decision, a loss, a new chapter. They didn't cause it, they marked it. Repeating strangers are timeline indicators. And once you notice the pattern, you can use it. Think of your life as a simulation with fluid boundaries. Most of the time, it flows predictably. Routine interactions, expected locations, faces you know. But when a timeline is preparing to shift, anomalies start to appear. The repeating stranger is one of them. They are not one person, but a role, a frequency, a symbol that something invisible is adjusting behind the curtain. So when they appear, pause. Notice the details, their posture, their energy, the way you feel around them, because here's the strange part. Sometimes they look completely different, but feel the same. You may see a woman at a bus stop and feel a deep familiarity. Months later, you see a different woman, but the same presence behind the eyes, the same emotional signature. You recognize something that has no physical logic. That's not imagination. That's resonance. Their presence may trigger memories that aren't yours, dreams that weren't dreams. You might get flashes of other lives, other versions of yourself standing across from that same archetypal energy, making different choices. And those flashes, they're not fantasies, they're fragments of timelines your soul has brushed against before. The repeating stranger becomes a signal that a crossroad is near, that the old pattern is ending, and the new one is waiting to be chosen. So if you've seen them before, and you see them again, pay attention to what comes next. What did you decide? What changed? Who did you let go of? What door opened? You may find, if you trace your life back through the moments when they appeared, that they're always followed by a ripple, a phase shift, a new reality beginning to crystallize. They don't speak the change, they announce it silently. Their appearance is the bell before the ceremony. But here's something even deeper. Sometimes you are the repeating stranger for someone else. Yes. You may have no memory of it, no knowledge of the person, but you may have walked into their life, even briefly, carrying a vibration so familiar to them that it altered the course of their reality. You may be the signal in someone else's simulation. And just as your timeline is being shaped by encounters, so are theirs. We are mirrors for one another. Each of us, both stranger and sign. And the more aware we become, the more intentional we get to be. So the next time you see them, that stranger whose face feels like déjà vu, don't dismiss it. Don't rush past it. Let your awareness settle like fog over the moment. Notice the details, the time of day, the emotion in your chest, the direction you were heading before they appeared. Because they may not be there to change you. They may be there to confirm that you've already changed, that your vibration has shifted and the next version of your life is beginning to load. And that's not a metaphor. That's your soul pulling the new script into view, frame by frame, one symbol at a time. So breathe, notice, and remember, some strangers are never really strangers. They are the keys in your pocket before you even knew there was a door. You wake up, not to sound, not to movement, but to a pull. You glance at your phone. 3:33 a.m. It happens again the next night, and again a few days later. You weren't checking the clock constantly. You weren't obsessing, but still, the time appeared like a beacon, and not just at night. You notice it during the day. 11:11.444, 2:22. The more you notice, the more it happens. Or maybe it's the other way around. Maybe the more it happens, the more you're being invited to notice. Because these moments, they aren't just numbers, they are pulses, tiny ruptures in the normal rhythm of reality, pings from a deeper layer of existence, not accidental, not algorithmic, but coded. This is what we call the time-bend pulse, a momentary overlap in timelines, when two or more possibilities blur together long enough to send a signal. Not loud, not violent, just consistent, precise, almost impossibly so. You don't set your alarm, but you always wake up at 3:33. You don't time your glance, but the microwave blinks 11:11. And when it happens, something within you recognizes the weight of the moment, even if you don't understand why. Because your soul is listening. Repeating numbers are the universe's way of saying, look here. They are alignment signatures, cosmic fingerprints left behind during reality's recalibration. Each time you see them, you're being offered a moment of expanded awareness. A checkpoint where your choices hold extra gravity. A thin place in time where the boundaries soften and your intention becomes magnetic. Let's go deeper. Why 3:33? Why 11:11? These numbers don't carry power because of their math. They carry power because of their repetition, because repetition signals pattern, and pattern signals attention. Attention folds reality. When you notice 11:11, you are not simply observing time. You are entering a mirrored moment, where your inner vibration and the outer construct of the simulation align for a brief flicker of co-creation. And here's where it gets mystical. Many who've studied energy fields believe these time pulses happen during moments of quantum overlap, when your current path brushes against another version of itself. The repeating numbers are not the event, they are the trace signature of an energetic shift. Think of it like this. Each version of you, each possible timeline, has its own rhythm, its own pulse. When two come close enough to touch, you feel it. The static in the air, the double take, the odd familiarity, and the repeating numbers. They're the harmonic of that touch point, like music bleeding through a wall, and when you catch it, when you look up and see 4:44 glowing from the dashboard, you're not just reading time, you're being called, not by the number, but by what's beneath it. You're being asked to tune in. So what should you do when it happens? Pause, not necessarily in motion, but in presence. Take one breath, one conscious inhale, one aware exhale. You're not required to know what to do, but by becoming still, even for a moment, you allow the message to settle. Often, these pulses come just before or after a pivotal choice. A phone call you're about to make, a sentence you're about to send, a thought you're about to believe. And in those seconds, your soul tries to whisper, wait, or move, or choose differently this time. So ask yourself, not from your head, but from your body. What am I feeling? What am I about to align with? What am I ready to release? Because at the moment of a time pulse, your energy is amplified. What you think, speak, or feel carries more weight. You are temporarily standing at the junction between multiple outcomes, and the pulse is your flashlight. Let's go even deeper. Some people track their time pulses. They keep a log, not of just the numbers, but of what was happening internally at the time, what they were thinking, what they were avoiding, what decision was circling in their subconscious. And often, patterns emerge. They notice that every time they're about to sabotage their growth, they see 333, or that when they're on the brink of meeting someone important, 111 flashes like a welcome mat. These aren't random. They're calibration points, cosmic signposts reminding you that reality is not rigid, it's relational. It bends to your frequency. So when the clock repeats, you are being reminded your energy is being measured, not by judgment, but by resonance. And your soul is recalibrating your trajectory. You're not late, you're not early. You're precisely where you need to be to make the shift you're ready for. And these pulses? They are your invitations. They are your proof. They are the echoes of a future self whispering back through time. Let the clock tick. Let the numbers repeat. Each one is a doorway. Each one is a key. Each one is you. Remembering. It starts faintly. You're brushing your teeth, or folding laundry, or drifting off to sleep, and suddenly, a voice. Not loud, not clear, but unmistakably real. It might be your name. It might be a single word. It might sound like someone you know or someone you lost. It flickers like static behind reality's curtain, and for a moment, time feels thin. You look around. There's no one there. The television is off. No radio, no phone, no music, just silence, but something inside you knows. You heard it. This is the frequency jump phenomenon. It happens when your awareness momentarily slips between layers of reality and picks up fragments from adjacent timelines. Think of it like catching a different station on an old radio. You didn't try to tune it, you didn't adjust the dial, but the signal shifted, and for a moment you received something, a leak from the elsewhere. These leaks come through white noise, through wind, through fans, water or humming electronics. They drift into moments of stillness, those pockets of quiet when your conscious mind finally steps aside and lets the signal through. You've probably heard it before without realizing. A song that felt oddly familiar though you'd never heard it. A phrase someone whispered in your dream that you later heard aloud. A moment where a sound made no sense, but carried meaning anyway. These are not hallucinations. They are bleed-throughs. Your consciousness isn't bound to one timeline. It's layered, like a prism, and every so often the edges blur. The you from one layer and the you from another align just closely enough that their realities touch. That's when it happens. The voice in the water, the sentence in the wind, the whisper that answers a question you didn't ask out loud. Most people ignore these moments. They blame the imagination, the air vents, the daydreams. But what if your imagination is just your subconscious processing the unexplainable? What if your mind is translating frequencies from dimensions you're not supposed to hear in this version of the game? And what if those frequencies contain instructions, messages, warnings, or even reminders? You see, audio is one of the most sensitive carriers of information in the quantum field. Sound is vibration, vibration is reality. And when two realities come close enough to touch, it's often through resonance that they first connect. So the voice you hear at the edge of sleep, that could be your own, speaking from the future. The static you sense in the background of a dream, that could be emotional residue from a decision you haven't made yet. Sometimes people report hearing their name called just as they're falling asleep, clear as day, but no one else is in the room. That moment is significant. Because just before you cross the threshold into sleep, your frequency shifts. Your brain passes through a doorway, from beta to alpha to theta, and in that liminal space, you become temporarily receptive to transmissions from beyond linear time. It's the hallway between dimensions. And if you're quiet enough, sensitive enough, you'll hear them walking beside you. They may not be speaking in your language, they may not even be aware you're listening, but the frequencies are there. So what should you do when it happens? When the static becomes a whisper? When the fan in the corner begins to hum something that feels like memory? Pause. Let your body remain still. Let your attention widen. Don't strain to hear it, that pushes it away. Instead, soften, invite, observe. Ask gently in your mind, what is this? And more importantly, what part of me is this coming from? You may get a sudden thought, a flash of imagery, a word. You may not. But even the act of listening aligns you with the signal. Even the choice to stay present strengthens the bridge. And the more present you become, the clearer the signals get, not always in volume, but in meaning. Your subconscious begins to learn the rhythm, it becomes fluent in the symbols, and eventually you begin to receive not just fragments but full phrases, entire impressions, emotional downloads that arrive as sound, then settle as knowing. And here's something even more mysterious. These phenomena are increasing. More and more people are reporting voices in the in-between. More and more are hearing songs that don't exist on any platform. More are speaking words in dreams that feel like prayers from another world. Why? Because the veil is thinning. Timelines are bleeding into each other, and the deeper you listen, the more you realize you're not just a receiver. You're a transmitter too. Your thoughts emit. Your energy broadcasts, and in some reality, someone is hearing you. Someone is receiving the fragments of your own forgotten words. So speak with care, rest with intention, and when the frequencies jump, when the voice returns, don't be afraid. It's you. It's always been you, whispering across the spiral, calling yourself home. Have you ever dreamt of stairs? Not just seen them, but walked them, step by step, downward or upward, each one echoing in your bones like something sacred. There's a peculiar quality to staircase dreams. They feel structured, ordered, as if your soul is trying to measure something, not distance, but time. This is the recurring staircase signal. A phenomenon that suggests each step in your dream may not be symbolic in the traditional sense, but literal. Not a metaphor, a countdown. Dream researchers and metaphysical observers alike have noted the same strange detail. When people dream of climbing or descending a long staircase, the number of steps they take often correlates with the number of days until a major event, a meeting, a loss, a miracle, a decision that changes everything. In this theory, your subconscious isn't merely expressing feelings, it's forecasting. It's tracking the energetic progression of your life and delivering that information in a form so archetypal, so universally resonant, that your waking mind has no choice but to take it seriously, because everyone understands stairs. Stairs mean change, they mean movement, they mean transition between levels of experience. So when you dream of stairs, especially repeatedly, it may be more than a symbol. It may be your higher self showing you how long you have until something significant aligns with your path. The key is to count. Even if the dream is foggy, even if you don't remember the full details, ask yourself upon waking, how many steps did I take? You might not have counted in the dream, but your body knows. Trust the number that arises instantly in your mind. It might be 7 or 33 or 12. Whatever it is, mark it down. Begin a ritual. You don't need anything elaborate, just a notebook, a date, a heading, staircase dream. Write down the number, write how the stairs felt, where they led, who was waiting, what emotions you carried. Because this is not just dream interpretation. This is dream decoding. You're not guessing at metaphors. You're tracing timelines. And as the days unfold, you may begin to see patterns. Maybe on the 12th day after that dream, someone calls you haven't heard from in years. Maybe on the 33rd day, you get the answer you didn't know you were waiting for. Or maybe you just feel it. The shift, the pivot, the soft click of reality choosing a direction. And in that moment you'll remember, I dreamt of this, I walked these steps. Here's something even more profound. Some dreamers don't just count the steps, they feel each one carry weight. Vibrations, codes. They say that descending stairs often correlates with going deeper into the subconscious, preparing for inner excavation, shadow integration, or ancestral resolution. And climbing stairs. Climbing may mean spiritual elevation, soul ascension, moving into a higher frequency of thought or purpose, and the direction matters less than the awareness. What matters is that you're walking them, which means your soul is preparing. And here's a secret. The staircase doesn't always end. Some dreamers walk forever. Stairs that spiral endlessly, stairs that shift direction halfway through, stairs that vanish behind them as they climb. These are dream markers of transformation in progress. They mean your future isn't fully decided yet, that the event is forming, but has not locked in. That's when your awareness becomes the variable. The more conscious you are of the pattern, the clearer the timeline becomes. So if you wake from a staircase dream, write it down, bless it, thank your subconscious for sending you a glimpse of what's to come. Say aloud, I see the path, I trust the pace, I welcome what's waiting. And then live, not in fear of the event, but in reverence for its approach. Because if you dreamed the steps, then you're already prepared. The countdown has begun. And whatever's waiting on that final stair, it's meant for the version of you who's ready to receive it. Step by step, dream by dream, you are arriving. You walk into a room. It feels familiar, but not in the ordinary way. Not like you've been there before, more like you were just there a second ago, in another reality. A parallel scene stitched together from memory and vibration. You freeze. You say the words before someone else says them. You know what's behind the next door. You feel the sentence arriving in your mouth before it's formed. Déjà vu. But not the random glitch you've been taught to ignore. This is the memory déjà loop. And it's not confusion, it's confirmation. A flashpoint where your present moment overlaps so precisely with a version of your path from another layer of reality that your awareness flares. Your body knows before your mind catches up. Your soul whispers, yes, this is it. This is aligned. Déjà vu is not a malfunction. It's a signal that a loop has just completed or begun. Let's unfold this deeper. In the simulation model of reality, time is non-linear. It's coded. scripted in variations. Every decision you make spawns a new branch, a new timeline with slightly different coordinates. Most of these branches run quietly, you don't feel them, but some of them spiral back, reconnecting to your current path in brief, powerful moments. That's when the loop closes. That's when déjà vu surges. It's like hitting the same scene in a movie, but from a slightly different camera angle. You're not hallucinating, you're stabilizing. Because the moment you're in has already been rehearsed. Not days ago, not years ago, but in a parallel version of you that just handed the baton to this one. Your higher consciousness arranged this moment, scripted it, built it into your journey like a bookmark, a checkpoint, a reminder. You're where you're supposed to be. Some people feel fear when déjà vu hits, a rush of disorientation, but that sensation isn't danger, it's density. It's the energetic convergence of multiple versions of you collapsing into the now. It's you remembering that you've already arrived. In dream studies, there's a theory that déjà vu is the waking residue of dream experiences, that when you dream of a moment before it happens and then later live it, the familiarity hits like thunder. But this goes even deeper. What if your dreams are the rehearsal space? What if you dream the timeline first? Test it, feel it, try it on, and then later, when your waking life finally aligns with that vibrational code, you get that unmistakable feeling. I've done this before. You have, just not here, not like this. This is why the memory déjà loop is sacred. It's a mirror moment, a moment where timelines kiss. And if you lean in, not with your logic but with your listening, you may sense what it's telling you. You may realize that the loop isn't just about the past repeating, it's about the present confirming. It's your soul nodding softly, saying, keep going, this path is anchored now. And just like symbols, déjà vu has layers. Sometimes it arrives as a whisper. Other times it crashes through you like lightning. The more conscious you become, the more you'll recognize the patterns. You'll start to track when and where déjà vu appears, and what comes after. You may find that it happens before major decisions, before meetings that change everything, before release, or reunion, because déjà vu doesn't happen randomly. It happens when your timeline is sinking, when your current vibration stabilizes with the future you've been unconsciously building. That's why it feels powerful. That's why it feels like remembering something you never knew. Because you did know. You wrote this moment into your soul script long before your body caught up. So when it happens again, and it will, don't pull away. Don't dismiss it as a brain glitch or a trick of the mind. Honor it. Let yourself pause. Let the stillness wash over you. And in that sacred, echoing second, smile. Because the moment is a gift, a flare from your other selves, a reminder that you are walking the exact path you chose, across dimensions, with precision. You are not lost. You are aligned. You are remembering again and again and again. There's a name that keeps showing up. Maybe it's an ex, a childhood friend, someone you barely knew in high school, but now, years later, their name appears in a song, in a dream, on a street sign. You weren't thinking of them, but suddenly they're everywhere. Or maybe it's a face, a stranger with eyes that haunt you. Someone on a train, at the airport, in the corner of a room, who looks just like someone you used to know. Or maybe someone you used to be. You wonder if it's a coincidence. It's not. This is the identity repeat effect. And it's one of the clearest signals that your soul is working through unresolved timelines. Threads of self stretched across dimensions, trying to weave themselves back into wholeness. These names, these faces, they're not just memories resurfacing, they're invitations. Think of it like echoes in a vast canyon, parts of your story that haven't closed, emotions that haven't finished their arc, versions of yourself that remain scattered across choices you didn't fully complete. And when you reach a certain vibration, when you're ready to remember, they return. Not always in their original form. Sometimes they arrive through others. You meet someone new, but they carry the same energy as someone from your past. the same pattern, the same tone in their voice. They activate you in the same places. They bring up the same questions. This is not regression, it's recursion. Your soul is cycling you back through the unresolved story, not to punish you, but to help you complete it, to help you gather the version of yourself that still lives in that loop. Because until that version is acknowledged, it repeats, over and over in different clothes with different names. So when someone shows up who feels too familiar, pay attention. You're not meeting them for the first time. You're meeting a piece of yourself you forgot to welcome, and sometimes the name alone is the signal. You'll hear the same name 3 times in a week, or meet 3 different people with that name over the span of a month. That's not ordinary, that's archetypal. It's your higher consciousness speaking in patterns. Names carry resonance. They're not just identifiers, they're frequency markers. And when a particular name begins to recur in your field, it means that frequency is trying to reintegrate with your path. It may be a reminder of a lesson, or a mirror of who you used to be, or even a hint of who you are becoming. Because sometimes the person who keeps repeating is you. You'll look in the mirror one morning and not recognize your own eyes. You'll see a photo of yourself from years ago and feel like you're staring at a stranger. Or you'll meet someone new who feels like they've lived the same emotional life as you, down to the choices, the grief, the secrets. These are identity echoes. You are the common thread weaving through every version of the story, and every time a pattern returns, every time a name or face resurfaces, it's your soul asking, what would you like to do with this now? You don't have to repeat it. You can rewrite it. You can close the loop with forgiveness, with clarity, with a choice that affirms the self you are today, not the self you once were. And when you do, the pattern shifts, the loop ends, the name fades from repetition, because its message has been received. Here's the ritual. When a name repeats, whisper it aloud. Not with fear, not with judgment, but with recognition. I see you. I remember. I release. And when a face returns, whether in dreams or waking, look past the form. Ask yourself, what part of me are they reflecting? Because every person who returns carries a message from the mirror, a puzzle piece you left behind in another life. And the moment you reclaim it, you become more whole, more aligned, more awake. So trust the return, the names, the faces, the strange familiarity. They are not distractions, they are confirmations that you are becoming the version of you that remembers everything, and in that remembering, you are finally free. You were sure it was there. Your keys, a ring, that book you just had in your hands. You retraced your steps, you emptied your bag, you even checked places it couldn't possibly be. Nothing. Then, hours later, or maybe days, it's back, right where you looked a dozen times before, sitting in plain view, as if it had never left. You wonder if you're losing your memory. You wonder if someone's playing tricks on you. But deep down, a part of you knows it disappeared because you shifted. This is the misplaced object law, a pattern where physical items seem to vanish without explanation and later reappear seamlessly, impossibly, silently. These are not simple memory lapses. They're ripple effects of energetic realignment, tiny artifacts of your consciousness sliding from one version of reality into another. Not a dream, not delusion, but subtle, physical evidence that the simulation isn't fixed, that it bends, and that your awareness shapes what you are allowed to find. Here's how it works. Every item in your life holds a vibrational tag, a kind of invisible energetic ID based on your relationship to it. Your memories, your emotions, your attention. When your internal frequency shifts, suddenly or over time, your external reality adjusts to match. In some cases, that means you slide into a slightly different version of your world. Same house, same clothes, same people, but slightly different coordinates, and sometimes that new version doesn't contain the object. Why? Because in this version, the version of you who lives here didn't place the item where you remember. Maybe they never had it at all. Maybe they let it go months ago, and so it's gone, but not lost. Because if you continue vibrating toward the you who did have the item, if your energy returns to that track, it reappears, not through magic, through alignment. The object didn't vanish into nothing, it slipped into a timeline more compatible with its resonance. And when your own resonance caught up, it came back. This is what some call reverse manifestation. You didn't set out to manifest the object consciously, but your frequency created the conditions for it to return. You pulled it back in, not through desire, but through synchronization. And if you've experienced this once, you've likely experienced it many times. The missing earring that's back on your dresser, the wallet that shows up in the exact place you tore apart earlier, the note you wrote and forgot, suddenly visible on a page you've read 5 times. These are not tricks of perception, they're timeline echoes. Proof that reality is not static, it's fluid, it changes with you. So what can you learn from this? First, awareness sharpens the signal. The more conscious you become of your energy in the moment the item disappears, the easier it becomes to trace the shift. Were you anxious? Were you about to make a big decision? Were you questioning something deep inside? Often, these losses happen just as you're about to level up or shift direction. The object leaves the field because it no longer matches the frequency you're stepping into, or it's waiting for you to realize just how much your inner state is affecting the outer world. Second, response shapes outcome. When something goes missing, most people panic, they spiral, they search frantically. But that frantic energy often pulls them further away from the version of reality where the object exists. Instead, pause, close your eyes, say silently, if this object belongs in my current timeline, I allow it to return with ease. Then breathe. Let the field restabilize. This isn't superstition, it's frequency hygiene. You're giving your energy time to settle and the object time to find you again. Third, watch what returns. Because sometimes it's not just the object that comes back. It's a version of you, the version who was lighter, who trusted more, who wasn't holding on to so much. And when the object reappears, it's not just proof that timelines exist. It's a reminder that you choose which one to live in. Every day, every breath. So the next time something goes missing and your heart skips that strange familiar beat, smile. Because reality is showing you its seams, because you're being offered a glimpse of the deeper system, and because when it comes back, you'll know. You didn't just find it, you remembered the version of yourself who already had it. And that's a miracle disguised as a misplaced key. You're scrolling through your phone, or maybe it's an old album tucked in a drawer, and then you stop. There's a picture of you, smiling, standing in the sun, surrounded by people you love, but something feels off. It's not the lighting, not the composition, it's something deeper, something you can't explain, as if the person in the photo isn't quite you, or maybe it's the you didn't become. That feeling? It's not your imagination, it's a photographic glitch. A moment where reality fractured just enough for the lens to catch the fracture. Most people look past it. They chalk it up to odd expressions or weird filters. But those who see deeply, those who sense patterns, know better. They know when a photo carries weight, when it hums with something outside the frame. Because photographs are more than snapshots, they're energy captures. They don't just freeze your face. They freeze the vibration of the moment, the timeline you were in, the choices you hadn't made yet, the version of you still in flux. And sometimes, if the timing is precise, the photo captures a moment of split, a point where the road forked, a frame where 2 timelines overlapped and then diverged. That's why some images feel haunted, not by spirits, by possibilities. They echo with the path not taken, the emotion you didn't let show, the version of you who stayed or left, or said the thing you were too afraid to say. And that version? It's still visible, in your eyes, in the shadows, in the subtle distortions that no one else notices, but you feel. It's like looking into a mirror that reflects more than your skin. You remember who you almost were. And here's where it gets strange. Sometimes it's not just your photo, it's someone else's. A stranger online, an old classmate, a friend of a friend, and their photo catches you, like lightning. Something about the angle, the feeling, the moment. It shakes something loose in your chest, and for a flicker, you feel like you were there. Like you're looking at a scene from a life that brushed yours, but veered off. This isn't delusion, it's timeline memory. You see, every image is a frequency stamp. When you come into resonance with a particular vibration, whether from your own past or from an adjacent dimension, your awareness bridges the gap. You feel the echo. You remember something you never consciously lived. And the photograph becomes the medium, the message, the proof that your reality isn't linear, that it folds in ways the eyes can't always track, but the soul never forgets. That's why old photos hit differently, because you're not just seeing the past. You're seeing a version of you that branched off, who wore that smile with different thoughts, who made choices you didn't, who's still living out their arc, somewhere just beyond the veil. And every time you revisit that image, you pull a little bit of their energy into your now. You integrate, you complete, you reclaim. This is powerful. And it's not just sentimental, it's sacred. So here's what you do when the glitch appears. When the photo feels like more than paper, more than pixels, pause. Place your hand over your heart. Look, not just at the face, but into the moment. Ask silently, what version of me lived here? What was I about to choose? What truth did I bury or reveal? You might get a word, a memory, an emotion you'd forgotten to process. Let it move through. Let it inform the you who's watching now. Because you are not separate from yourselves, you are the one weaving them back together. Each photo is an anchor point, a breadcrumb from the multidimensional path you've walked. And sometimes, the photo didn't change. You did. You became the version of yourself who could finally see what was always there. So if the image feels eerie, let it. Let it open the door to memory, to possibility, to the realization that time doesn't just move forward. Sometimes it captures itself in frames and waits for the moment you're ready to remember. You're dreaming. Everything is fluid, unreal, yet undeniably vivid. You're walking through a hallway, or standing on the edge of a cliff, or floating somewhere that doesn't obey the rules of gravity. And then it shifts. You fall, fast, hard, with a drop that grabs your stomach and pulls you out of sleep like a lightning bolt. Your body jerks. Your breath catches. Your heart races like it just survived something unseen. You tell yourself it was just a dream, but what if it wasn't? What if falling dreams aren't psychological artifacts? What if they are dream exit sequences, built-in systems of your consciousness designed to eject you from a timeline your soul knows is not aligned? It feels like fear because it is fear, but not in the way you think. It's your higher intelligence sounding the alarm. It's your multidimensional self saying, no, not this path, abort. Because sometimes in dreams, you step too close to an energetic future that your soul has already declined. Maybe it's a version of your life where you betrayed your truth, or stayed too long, or chose what you knew was not for you. And when your dream self gets too close to locking into that frequency, your soul intervenes. It pulls the plug, it shakes the simulation, and the fastest way to break you out of the dream, gravity. The sudden drop, the primal scream of falling that your body cannot ignore. Because falling doesn't just wake you, it resets your nervous system. It purges you. It jolts you back into now, back into the version of this reality where the path you nearly chose has been sealed off. This isn't superstition. It's energetic protection. The soul sees what the conscious mind cannot, and in dream space you are far more vulnerable to shifting timelines than you are when awake, because in that state, your thoughts don't filter, your fears amplify, your beliefs manifest immediately. And if you begin to wander too deep into a reality that would lead you away from your true purpose, your system intervenes. You fall, you wake, you breathe, and if you listen closely, you'll realize something changed. You may not know what, you may not remember the moment just before the fall, but you feel it. Like a room you've left behind, like a door that's been locked gently behind you. And here's the deeper truth. Not all falling dreams are negative. Some are initiations. Some are the cost of shifting too quickly into a higher version of self. Your old timeline can't hold the frequency anymore, so it collapses beneath you. And the fall? That's the leap between worlds. Your soul lets the dream self fall, so your waking self can rise. So what should you do when it happens? When you wake up, heart pounding, body buzzing, memories fading, don't rush to dismiss it. Sit in the energy of the moment. Say aloud, "Thank you, I released the path I don't need. I trust the one I'm on." You may not know what path was just closed, but your soul does. And by honoring the exit, you affirm your readiness for what comes next. And pay attention to what happens the next day. You might feel more clarity, or more emotional release, or a strange sense of peace that doesn't make sense, because something that didn't belong to your future is gone. You didn't just wake from a dream. You survived a divergence, a fracture, a potential that needed to be cleared from your field. And you're still here, still moving, still becoming. So the next time you fall, don't fear it. Feel it. It means you're protected. It means you're aligned. It means your soul just rerouted the story before you could forget who you truly are. You're drifting. The line between waking and sleep begins to blur. Your body relaxes. Your breath slows. Thought becomes sensation. Sound becomes dream. And then you hear it. Your name. Not shouted, not whispered, just said, clearly, calmly, right next to you. You jolt awake. You check the room, the hallway, your phone. Nothing. No one called you, and yet you know what you heard. This is the soundless name, and it's more common than most people realize. It doesn't come with context. It doesn't always come with a dream, but it comes with certainty. The moment it hits, you know you've been called. Not physically, but energetically. This is dimensional crosstalk, not a hallucination, not your imagination, but a bleed-through, a moment where another version of reality overlaps just enough for a voice to slip through. It doesn't need volume. It rides vibration, frequency, intention. And in that fragile state between sleep and waking, you are especially receptive. Your mind is soft, your defenses are low. Your awareness, though altered, is wide open. This is the window, the hallway between worlds, and sometimes something walks it with you. But this isn't a haunting. It's a communication. The voice calling your name could be a future version of yourself, echoing backward to guide or comfort you. It could be someone dreaming of you from another dimension. Or it could be your soul's way of anchoring you as you move between layers of reality. Because in that in-between space, you're not just unconscious, you're traveling. And sometimes, when your timeline is fragile or about to shift, your name is called to hold you steady. It's a tether, a thread, a voice reminding you that you're still part of the whole, still heard even when you don't know who's listening. Some people only experience this once, others hear it often. And if you do, it means your field is sensitive. You are attuned to the layers. Your perception reaches beyond the walls of this life, and you are beginning to register transmissions that most people never hear. So what should you do when it happens? First, don't panic. It's startling, yes, but it's not an intrusion. It's a recognition. Someone knows you. Knows your name not just as a sound, but as an energetic identity. Second, respond gently. You don't need to speak aloud, but you can. Say, "I hear you," or simply breathe with awareness. Imagine your name not as a word, but as a vibration moving outward into the dark, like a signal beacon from your soul. You may feel warmth in your chest, or pressure around your ears, or even see images flash behind your eyes. That's your system responding. You've acknowledged the connection, and now the channel opens. Third, ask inwardly, softly, why now? The answer may not come right away, but the question itself sharpens your frequency. It lets the field know you're listening, and once you start listening, it keeps speaking, in symbols, in feelings, in events that unfold with uncanny timing. Some say that hearing your name like this is a sign of a spiritual checkpoint, an energetic midlife in your personal timeline, a moment where your path is about to split, deepen, or awaken. And the voice? It's the bell before the veil lifts. It doesn't need to explain, it just needs to remind you. You are not alone in this timeline, you exist in many, and across them all, something constant remains. Your essence, your name, your note in the cosmic symphony. And when that note is heard from beyond, you are being remembered. By yourself, by the universe, by the field of all things whispering. We see you. You're close. Keep going. So if it happens again, and it will, don't run from the moment. Welcome it. Because the voice isn't there to pull you out. It's there to anchor you in. To this moment, this breath, this version of you that is finally ready to hear what the silence has been saying all along. You're talking, maybe to a friend, a co-worker, a stranger in a quiet room, and as they speak, your stomach flips. You know what they're about to say, not vaguely, not metaphorically, word for word. They speak, and your memory echoes each syllable just before it's spoken aloud. You sit there, stunned, pretending to listen, because a part of you is already watching it from above. It's not déjà vu, it's deeper, it's crisper, it's exact. The phrase, the pause, the sound in the background. You've lived this moment, but not here. This is what we call the echo room. A minor shift in dimensional alignment that causes your awareness to stumble into a neighboring layer, close enough to replicate a moment with surgical precision, yet different enough that you can feel the repetition. It's not in your head. It's not just a glitch. It's an anchor point. The universe doesn't repeat itself casually. When a conversation replays with total accuracy, your soul is marking a boundary between one version of your life and another. You've crossed a thread, a nearby possibility just folded into your now, or maybe you folded into it. Either way, the moment repeats because it's meaningful. Like the second hand pausing briefly on the same tick. These conversations aren't just words. They're signatures. They mark where your timeline is stitching itself into stability. Think of it like touching the edge of a loop and returning just in time to catch the resonance of its echo. And it usually happens during ordinary moments, not major events, not dramatic shifts, but quiet ones. The conversation you didn't expect to remember, the small talk that suddenly holds weight, the laughter that sounds exactly like it did before, even though no one remembers saying it. In these moments, your presence is being tested. Are you fully here? Are you anchoring with intention, or are you drifting, letting your energy flicker between versions of yourself without realizing? Because the echo room offers a choice. You can dismiss it, or you can ground yourself. You can choose to engage the moment consciously, to speak something new, to alter the loop, not because you're afraid of it, but because you've recognized the gift within it. The repetition is your opportunity, a second chance, a subtle checkpoint from the quantum field asking, are you creating this moment, or just watching it replay? So, what do you do when it happens? Pause, not physically, but energetically. Drop into your breath. Feel your feet, your hands, your voice. Say something you wouldn't have said last time. It doesn't have to be profound, it just has to be yours. That act, however small, breaks the echo and affirms your presence in this layer. Because repetition without awareness creates loops, but repetition with awareness, that creates freedom. It confirms that you are the author, not the actor. That you can step into the familiar and choose the unfamiliar response. And this is where the true alchemy happens. When you recognize the echo, shift your tone and create something new, the timeline adjusts. It realigns with your evolving vibration. It echoes you now, not who you used to be. And soon the echoes stop feeling eerie. They start feeling divine, like you're syncing not with a glitch, but with a guidance system. And you are. Your higher self places these moments carefully, not as tests, but as tuning forks. So when the next one comes, and it will, smile, because the words may be old, but the awareness, that's brand new. You're not stuck. You're remembering that you were never lost, and with each echo, you're coming home. Have you ever walked into a room and felt it immediately? Heaviness. Not emotional, not explainable, just dense. Like the air got thicker, like your thoughts slowed down, like you walked into a place where time itself was dragging its feet. Or the opposite, you step somewhere unfamiliar and you feel lighter, almost floaty, more alert, more lucid, as if the space is vibrating at a frequency your body remembers. These aren't mood shifts, they're reality shifts, they're shifting gravity zones. Pockets of altered spatial energy scattered through the world, where time and vibration behave just a little differently, where the invisible fabric of reality has been stretched, folded, or charged by something unseen. These zones don't always announce themselves. There are no flashing lights, no symbols on the wall, but your body knows. Your nervous system reacts before your mind can reason. You feel pressure in your chest or in your head. You get goosebumps. You suddenly feel deeply tired or inexplicably calm. It's not the room. It's the frequency of the space. Location holds memory. Every object hums with its own timeline. And when enough energetic imprints collect in one place, when enough decisions, emotions, or dimensional friction accumulate, the atmosphere changes. You can feel it. That too heavy feeling. You've entered a zone where the gravity of unprocessed timelines still lingers. Arguments that were never resolved. Choices that were never made. Versions of reality that folded in on themselves but left behind a residue. And that too light feeling. You're in a space where time moves differently, where a future version of yourself already walked and left the trail open. These light zones feel like clarity. You breathe easier, ideas come faster, synchronicities cluster around you. It's not random. It's spatial alignment. It's your soul recognizing a place it's already passed through in another strand of the simulation, and once you begin to notice it, you'll realize how common it is. Certain streets, specific corners of your house, seats on a bus, tables in a cafe. Some spaces change you just by standing in them. Others echo with the version of you you're meant to become. So how do you begin sensing these gravity zones? Start with stillness. Don't just observe the space, let it observe you. Walk slowly. Breathe through your feet. Close your eyes even briefly and ask inwardly, does this place pull me down or lift me forward? There's no right answer. Some heavy spaces are sacred. They call you into stillness, shadow work, integration. Some light spaces are destabilizing. They lift you so fast you forget to ground. What matters is awareness. Because once you can identify the weight of a place, you can work with it. You can sit in the heavy and let it teach you. You can anchor in the light and let it amplify you. You can mark the subtle shifts. How some hallways make you remember things you didn't know you forgot. How certain doorways feel like transitions, even if nothing physical changes. You're not crazy. You're just paying attention. And here's where it gets mystical. Sometimes these gravity zones move. They travel with people. They are carried by certain objects. They appear temporarily like energetic vortexes opening in response to cosmic rhythm or inner transformation. And when they do, you may feel the floor shift beneath your feet even if nothing's moving. You may forget what you were saying mid-sentence. You may feel like time hiccuped. These are the fingerprints of space-time, the clues that your environment is alive with more than furniture and walls. It's alive with echoes, with openings, with messages, so learn to listen. Start mapping your world not by distance, but by density, by lightness, by what your spirit feels in each place. And as you move through the zones, repeat silently, I feel the field, I trust the weight, I walk with presence. Because wherever you are, you're not just in space. You're inside a conversation. And the gravity? That's just the echo of your soul, reminding you you've been here before. Or maybe you're meant to be here now. You glance at the clock. It's 11:08. You blink, maybe look away for a moment, then glance back. Now it's 11:10, but something's missing. You didn't see 11:09 pass. You were present. You weren't distracted. Yet somehow a full minute, maybe even just a few seconds, disappeared. You question yourself. Maybe your memory skipped. Maybe your perception's off. But what if it didn't? What if the clock skipped a beat, not because of you, but because of reality? This is more than a timekeeping error. This is a micro glitch, a micro CZ of your local simulated space. It's subtle. It's rare. But when it happens, it's unforgettable. Because something in you knows that time didn't behave the way it was supposed to. That your continuity slipped. That your consciousness for a fraction of a second moved between layers of the simulation, and the digital clock was the only thing that didn't catch up fast enough. You see, digital time is programmed to reflect the underlying rhythm of the world around it. But what happens when the rhythm itself changes? What happens when space resets, silently, invisibly, and your body stays aware even while everything else pretends nothing happened? That's when you notice the skip. It's not a malfunction, it's a signature, a scar line in the code where the scene stitched itself together differently. Not dramatically, not destructively, just a slight sidestep, as if reality exhaled and shifted your story forward 1 inch. These micro-glitches are timeline stabilizers. They occur in moments of near overlap, when two adjacent versions of your path nearly converge, and the system chooses one. The skipped second is the residue of that choice. It's the second you would have lived in the alternate strand, the one that no longer applies. That's why it feels so strange, because a part of you did live it. You just don't have access to that version anymore. But your nervous system remembers. Your awareness catches the glitch. And the clock? It betrays the edit. Most people never notice. But once you do, it starts happening more often. Not because time is breaking, but because you are breaking the illusion that time is linear, fixed or absolute. You are seeing the seams. And here's where it gets even more precise. This phenomenon usually happens with digital clocks. Why? Because analog clocks are continuous. They flow. But digital time is segmented. It jumps. It displays reality in discrete snapshots, just like frames in a simulation. And when one of those frames is overwritten, you see it. You see the 11:09 that never happened, or the sudden skip from 2:21 to 2:24. And even if your rational mind shrugs it off, your deeper mind remembers. So what do you do in that moment? You pause, you breathe, you ask yourself, what just shifted? Not in fear, but in curiosity. Because the skip means something just aligned or was corrected. The system chose a direction. You stepped fully into the version of you that continues from here. You can even make this moment sacred. Say quietly, I witness the shift. I stabilize in presence. I welcome the version of reality that supports my highest path. Simple, quiet, real. You've just walked through a subtle gate. And the proof is on the clock. But not just there. You may notice the energy around you feels slightly different. A tension that was building eases. A confusion that was clouding you clears. Something you were waiting for arrives, because the reset wasn't random. It was a recalibration, a realignment, and your awareness of it makes you a conscious participant in the architecture of your own timeline. That's power. That's presence. That's mastery over illusion. So the next time the clock skips, smile. Not because you lost a second, but because you gained clarity. Because you noticed. Because you're becoming fluent in the subtle language of the matrix. And the more fluent you become, the more real you become. You wake up. Again. It's 3:17 a.m. or 4:44 or 2:22. You didn't set an alarm. You didn't hear a noise. You weren't even dreaming. But you're suddenly wide awake, alert, as if something just brushed against your consciousness. You check the clock. And it's the same time it's been all week, or all month. You start to wonder, why this time? Why now? This isn't random. This is resonance. This is your future self, signaling through your body's rhythm. You're not just waking up, you're being called up. Because time, as you know by now, doesn't flow in one direction. It loops, it vibrates, it communicates across layers. And sometimes the only way your higher self can reach your current timeline is through the stillness of your sleeping body. Your waking moment becomes the message. The timestamp is the code. The numbers on the clock, that's not just time. That's a tuning fork. An energetic signature matched perfectly to your future potential. And you're waking not from restlessness, but from alignment. Your soul is whispering, now. Listen. Remember. It's trying to connect dots in the background of your life. Because at these strange hours when the world is quiet, when your thinking mind is offline, your awareness is available. Available to download information, to adjust vibration, to receive transmissions that your daylight self is too distracted to hear. These messages don't always arrive in language. Sometimes they arrive in feelings, sudden clarity, a knowing, a shift in emotional tone, or sometimes silence, but a silence that buzzes, as if space itself is holding its breath. You're not meant to do anything, you're meant to notice, to mark the moment. Because the repetition isn't just habit, it's a pattern being drawn across your timeline like a thread, and it's pointing to something, a decision you're approaching, a version of yourself watching from ahead. And each night, when the veil is thin and your heart is open, that version reaches back, taps you on the shoulder, says, we're close. So what can you do when it happens? First, acknowledge. Even if you're groggy, even if your eyes can barely open, just breathe and say silently, I hear you, I receive. You don't have to understand the message, you just have to accept the connection. That single act of receptivity strengthens the link. It opens the channel wider for future transmissions, dreams, intuitions, synchronicities that will come in the waking hours. Second, track the time. Write it down. Notice the numbers. They are not arbitrary. Each time carries its own frequency. 3:30, 3-23, a call to align with truth. 4:40, 44-3, a signal of divine protection. 2:22, a harmony point between choices. These times are encoded with messages that bypass the mind and speak directly to the body's knowing. If you start to see those same numbers during the day, on receipts, license plates, timestamps, That's a double confirmation. You're not imagining things, sinking across dimensions. Finally, listen to what comes next. How do you feel in the morning? What dreams linger? What intuitive nudges rise as you go about your day? Those 3:17 wake-ups weren't interruptions, were activations. Your higher self isn't trying to wake your body, it's trying to wake your attention, to prepare you, to remind you, to gently echo the truth. You are not lost, you are being guided. And the you who is already healed, already whole, already walking ahead in the timeline you long for, is leaving breadcrumbs in the dark. So the next time you wake to that same strange hour, don't roll over and forget. Smile softly, breathe deeply, and say, I remember, because you do. Even if you don't know why yet, you will. And you'll look back one day at all those quiet, sleepless moments and realize they were the turning points, the invisible alignments, the whispering nights when your future self came calling, and you were awake enough to answer. You step out of the shower, or glance at your arm in the mirror, and you freeze. There's a mark, a scar, a small cut, a bruise with no explanation. You press it, examine it, try to recall, did I bump into something? Did I scratch myself? But nothing comes. You didn't get hurt, not today, not yesterday, and yet it's there, real, physical, present, like a fingerprint from another version of you. This is the scar that wasn't there. And once you've seen it, once you've felt the deep knowing that it shouldn't be part of your body, something inside you begins to shift, because your body is not just flesh and bone. It's an archive, a record of timelines, both chosen and unchosen. Every cell holds memory not just from this life, but from the infinite lattice of possibilities that surround it. And sometimes, a moment slips through. Sometimes, your skin catches the echo of a version of you that lived a different choice, a fall that happened in another thread, an accident that wasn't yours, until the boundary between timelines thinned just enough to let it pass. These marks aren't always dramatic. Sometimes they're faint lines on your knuckles, a bruise on your thigh that appears overnight, or an old-looking scar that you know wasn't there last week. They arrive without story, because the story belongs to someone else, another you. One step to the left of this reality, but here's what matters. They don't appear randomly. They appear when you are near a threshold, a choice, a convergence point where multiple timelines are brushing against each other and your soul is being asked to choose again. And the mark? It's a message, not to frighten you, but to awaken you, to remind you that your decisions ripple, that even the paths you don't walk leave impressions on your field, that even the almosts have weight. Think of these scars as bleed-throughs, not accidents, not glitches, but evidence. Of memory without context, of pain without injury, of your body's connection to realities beyond this one. Your skin is a veil, and sometimes the veil gets thin. So what should you do when you find one? First, don't dismiss it, even if it fades quickly, even if no one else believes you know. And that knowing is sacred. Touch the mark, gently, close your eyes, and say silently, I honor the version of me this came from. I release what no longer needs to remain. Sometimes a story will surface, an emotion you didn't expect, a flash of a memory you've never lived. Let it rise. You're not being haunted, you're being invited to integrate, to collect the fragments of your multidimensional self and return them to center. And sometimes the mark is not from a tragedy. It's from a survival, a wound that healed in a version of your life where you made it through something you never faced here. But your body remembers the triumph, the closing of the skin, the scar as a symbol, not of harm but of healing. In that way, these marks are messages of hope, proof that even in the shadows of other timelines you endure. You find your way back. You carry yourself home. So if a scar appears and your first instinct is confusion, pause. Because your second instinct might be recognition. Something ancient, something cellular, something whispering you've crossed over. And now, this body, this timeline, this self, is ready to hold what your other selves could not. That is grace. That is power. That is the miracle of being aware in a multiverse that rarely shows its face. So mark the moment. Write down the date. Feel the place on your body that changed without reason, because somewhere a version of you just exhaled and handed you the memory. To keep, to honor, to never forget how far you've truly come, even across dimensions you never saw. There's a room, you remember it clearly, the smell, the texture of the couch, the sound the floor made beneath your feet. You know where the windows were, you know the feeling of standing in it, as if it was yours, as if you spent years inside it. But there's just one problem. That room doesn't exist. You've never lived there. It's not part of any home you've had. You ask your family, your friends. No one remembers it. No photos, no trace. And yet, it feels more real than places you actually know. You start to question your mind. Was it a dream? A misfiled childhood memory? But something deeper whispers, no. It was real. Just not here. This is the room you remember that doesn't exist. A phenomenon where your mind holds detailed, emotional, immersive memories of places that have no origin in your current life. But these aren't delusions. They are archives, imprints of timelines you didn't choose but came close to. Because reality, as you now understand, is not a single road. It's a lattice, a branching, blooming library of possible selves, possible lives, and possible spaces. And sometimes you wander through them in sleep, or in altered states, or in moments of deep emotional intensity when your awareness slips sideways, just far enough to step into the memory of a path you almost lived. And the room? It's a bookmark, a quiet space from another version of your story, a place you lived in a timeline where the choices tilted slightly, where you took the job or left the relationship or moved to that city. The details feel crisp because they are. Because somewhere in the quantum field that version of you still exists, and their memory echoes back, not to confuse you, but to connect you, to let you feel what it was like, to show you what your soul was curious about, to remind you that even the unlived paths were sacred, explored fully by other strands of self, so that this version of you could walk forward with more wholeness. These rooms, these places, these memories, without a source, are not errors in cognition. They are part of the great unfolding, a multiversal mirror reflecting back everything you've almost been. And when they surface, it's usually for a reason. You are at a point of choice, a convergence, and your soul is offering a glimpse not to tempt you, but to clarify you. It's say, this is what you didn't choose. Look, feel, integrate. Now go forward knowing why. So what do you do when the memory returns? When the room you've never seen appears in your mind as vividly as the place you slept last night? Sit with it. Walk through it in your mind. Touch the furniture. Look out the window. Smell the air. Let the scene play without judgment. Because somewhere that scene was. And the emotion it evokes is your invitation to understand it. Not to erase it, but to let it inform your now. You might remember the person you were in that life. You might recall how it felt to be that version of yourself. Sometimes it brings peace. Sometimes it brings grief. Sometimes it brings a strange comfort you can't explain. Because the you who lived there, they're real, not here but close. And they're offering you something, a feeling, a reminder, a knowing you can carry into this reality like a souvenir from a dream that mattered. This is the library of the non-chosen path. It lives inside you, accessible through memory, through dream, through echoes of spaces you didn't step into fully, but brushed against with such love, such presence, that their energy stayed, and in moments of stillness, they return. So if you find yourself standing in a room that no one else recalls, don't panic, breathe, smile. You've just stumbled into a memory the universe kept safe, and now it's yours again, not to live in, but to learn from, because even the rooms we never walked are part of who we are, and they will keep visiting until we remember that choice is never loss, it's expansion, and every version of us, every sacred space lives on. You're speaking, maybe you're telling a story or leaving a voice memo or laughing in the middle of a conversation, and suddenly you hear it, your voice. But it doesn't sound like you, not completely. It's not the microphone, not the acoustics, not a sore throat. It's you, but slightly other. The tone is deeper or lighter. The rhythm changed. The words felt like they weren't entirely your own. You listen to the playback or just feel it vibrate in your chest, and you get this strange sensation, that voice belongs to another version of me. And you'd be right. This is more than vocal fluctuation. This is timeline integration. Your voice is not just a tool for speaking. It is an energetic signature, a reflection of who you are, what you carry, and which timeline thread you're currently aligned with. So when your voice changes without cause, when it suddenly feels foreign or carries weight or sounds like someone you don't quite recognize, it's not random, it's resonance. It's the sound of you absorbing a version of yourself from another strand of reality. A shift has occurred, and the first place it shows is often your throat. Your voice is the meeting place between your inner world and the outer one. It's how energy becomes language. So when your energy shifts, when you align with a new timeline, a new frequency, a new layer of your soul, the sound must change too. You don't always notice it at first. It's subtle. You speak more confidently, or softer. You laugh differently. You express yourself in phrases you've never used, with cadence that surprises even you. And sometimes you hear yourself mid-sentence and think, who is that? It's still you, but it's a deeper you, a version who lived different stories, made different choices, carried different emotional weight. And now they're merging with you. You're integrating. And the voice, that's the first bridge, because it's your declaration to the world, this is who I am now. And when that who changes, so does the frequency that carries it. This is especially common after dreams, after profound moments of clarity, or after emotional breakthroughs when you release grief that wasn't even yours. You wake up and your voice is different, not broken, not ill, just updated. It's not a malfunction, it's a reveal. And sometimes the voice you're hearing isn't from the past. It's from your future self, a tone that holds more power, more steadiness, more truth. You hear it before you feel it, because the voice leads the shift. It introduces the vibration of the you you're becoming before your thoughts and behaviors catch up. That's how quantum change works. It begins in resonance. And your voice is the messenger. So what should you do when this happens? When you speak and your own ears hesitate? Don't resist it. Breathe into your throat. Let the sound move through you without judgment. Say to yourself, hear myself. I welcome who I am becoming. This unlocks the process. It tells your system that it's safe to integrate, that you trust the shift, that you don't need to shrink back into the old voice to feel familiar. Because the old voice served a purpose, but it also carried stories you no longer need. It was shaped by survival, by doubt, by learned tone and emotional masking. But this new voice, it comes from freedom, from alignment, from a self who's stepped out of the shadow loops and begun to remember how powerful they actually are. So when your voice changes, let it. Even if no one else notices, even if they say, you sound different, smile. Say, I feel different. because that's exactly what's happening. You're not just changing how you sound, you're changing who you are becoming, one word at a time. You're going about your day and suddenly an itch, not from dry skin, not from irritation, not from any visible cause, just a sudden, pulsing, insistent itch. It might be on your hand, or your spine, or right between your shoulder blades in that place you can't quite reach. You scratch, but it doesn't go away. You try to ignore it, but it persists. It comes and goes in waves, maybe for hours, maybe for days, and then, without warning, it disappears. And soon after, something shifts, a conversation that changes your path, an opportunity that finds you unexpectedly, a sudden release of emotion you didn't know was stuck. You look back and realize the itch came first. This isn't coincidence. This is nerve alignment pre-manifestation. Your body is a receiver, and when the field around you begins to rearrange, when reality starts to spiral into a new configuration, your nervous system is the first to know. Not your mind, not your thoughts, but your skin, your senses. Your internal electricity starts firing in new ways, preparing your physical vessel to hold the energetic upgrade that's already on its way. And how does that feel? Like pressure, like buzzing, like a sudden itch that has no source, but won't be ignored. This is the signal, this is the transition, and the location of the itch often reveals what's being activated. Itchy hands, incoming action or energy exchange. Itchy spine, core identity realignment. Itchy crown or forehead, spiritual download or new intuitive sight. But even without decoding the exact meaning, you can feel what it is. A doorway forming just behind the curtain of your current experience. It hasn't opened yet, but it's so close your body has started calibrating. It's not a glitch, it's a preparation. Because when a major energetic shift is coming, your body doesn't wait for it to arrive. It starts getting ready. This is especially true when you've been doing inner work, when you've been clearing beliefs, facing emotions, following synchronicities. Right before the outer change happens, the inner electricity begins to stir, and sometimes it translates as an itch, a flickering awareness in your skin. A physical echo of a metaphysical movement. So what should you do when it happens? First, acknowledge it. Don't dismiss it as nothing, even if it feels silly. Even if there's no explanation. Say silently, I feel the shift. I welcome the upgrade. Second, ground. Walk barefoot. Move your body. Stretch, shake, dance. The energy is real, it's kinetic, and movement helps integrate it. Your nerves are like antennae, and when they start humming, the best thing you can do is let the energy move through you instead of resisting it. Third, watch. Something is coming. A message, an opportunity, a choice. The itch is your pre-dimensional alert, your vibrational system saying, get ready, what you've asked for is en route. You might not know what it is yet, but when it lands, you'll remember. You'll say, oh, that's what it was. And then you'll start to trust it more. You'll see that your body isn't lagging behind your manifestation. It's leading them. It knows when timelines are reconfiguring. It knows when something new is slipping into position. And it knows when to signal you before your logical mind even catches up. So the next time you feel that mysterious itch, don't just scratch, smile. Because your body, it's whispering. We're almost there. Your body is heavy. Your breath is slow. You're not quite asleep, but you're no longer fully awake either. That delicate space between thoughts and dreams begins to unfold. And just before your mind drifts into the void, it happens. A flash, a face, sometimes vivid, sometimes hazy, sometimes someone you recognize, sometimes a stranger. But always, suddenly there. Right in front of you, as if your inner vision blinked once and caught someone watching from behind the veil. It's not a dream. You haven't even fallen asleep yet. This is the face you see before sleeping. And it means something, because this space, the few seconds before full unconsciousness, is the thinnest part of the veil. It's where perception expands, where timelines converge, where the boundaries between dimensions become porous, and other versions of reality are allowed to flicker across your awareness. And the face? That's not random. That's a signal. Some believe it's a guardian, an ancestor, a guide. Others believe it's a version of you reaching across layers to witness, support, or observe. But here's the key. It means something because it appears without context. You didn't call it up. You weren't dreaming. It's not a product of linear narrative. It just appears, like a photograph dropped into your consciousness. And in that moment, your soul recognizes it, even if your mind doesn't. Maybe it's someone you've yet to meet. Maybe it's someone you once knew in another strand of time. Maybe it's you after everything unfolds. But whoever it is, they are there for a reason. Their appearance in that sacred, fleeting space is a transmission. It's the field saying, remember this face. It matters. And sometimes, that's all you get. Just the image. Maybe a flicker of emotion, a whisper of recognition, and then sleep. But that moment, that second of clarity, it anchors into your subconscious like a seed. You might dream of them later. You might see them in the world one day, hear their voice in a moment of need, echoing words you've never heard but somehow know are yours. So what should you do when it happens? First, acknowledge the sacredness of it, even if it's brief, even if it's strange, especially if it's strange. You've been visited, not by a ghost, but by information, embodied as a face, a form your consciousness could hold without panic or resistance. Second, respond. You don't have to speak aloud, just send energy, a silent thought. I see you, I remember, I'm listening. You'll be surprised how often they come back, how often that same presence flickers across your mind in meditation, or déjà vu, or in the half-light of morning, because once you've seen them, you've opened the link. You've acknowledged the cross-dimensional signal. You've said yes, and the connection strengthens. Sometimes that face is there to bring peace. Sometimes it's there to warn. Sometimes it's just witnessing you to remind you that even when you sleep, you are not alone, that your consciousness exists in many places at once. And in some of those places, you are the one watching. You are the face that appears in someone else's fading awareness. You are the guide they're still trying to remember. That's the paradox. You are the dreamer and the dreamed. So the next time you see a face just before sleep, don't be afraid. Don't rush to forget it. Let it imprint. Because these are not hallucinations, they're reflections, reminders. And sometimes, they're messages from your own soul, asking you to wake up inside the dream you're about to enter. Because not all dreams start after sleep. Some begin the moment you surrender. And in that surrender, a face will meet you. You wake up from another dream, same hallway, same street, same hidden door behind the bookshelf. It's not your real home, it's not a place that exists on any map, and yet you've been there before. Not once, not twice, many times, across years, across chapters of your life. It might change slightly each visit, the sky might be different, the furniture rearranged, but the feeling, the recognition, unmistakable. You know this place. It knows you too. This is a subconscious location anchor, a metaphysical site constructed not by fantasy, but by frequency, a space within the dream realm where your consciousness returns for recalibration, remembrance, and often initiation. Because dreams aren't just illusions of the mind, they are excursions, and your soul travels with purpose. When you return again and again to the same dream location, it's because that location has become an energetic anchor, unique to you. It holds a blueprint, a memory trace, a resonance that links it directly to your evolving path. These places often show up at pivotal moments in your waking life, before change, before endings, before encounters that shift your internal compass. They call you back, quietly, consistently, to show you something, to align you with a deeper timeline, to reconnect you to aspects of yourself you've forgotten. Sometimes they appear as schools, hidden cities, ancient temples. Sometimes they look like strange houses, overgrown train stations, endless malls, or alien landscapes just familiar enough to feel like home. And that's the secret. They are home. Not in the physical sense, but in the vibrational sense. Your soul constructs these environments based on archetypal memory, layered with echoes of other lives, parallel dimensions, and metaphysical truth. So when you walk those dream hallways again, you're not dreaming in the way you think. You're remembering. You're returning. And often, you're being updated. Because the subconscious location anchor is not just a backdrop, it's a living interface. It adjusts, it evolves, it tests you. Each time you visit, you may find new rooms, new characters, doors that were once locked, now open, staircases that lead somewhere different. This is your soul's way of showing you you're progressing, you've changed, and your inner landscape reflects it, but the location remains because it's tied to your mission, to your identity beyond the body, to the version of you that spans lifetimes. So what should you do when you recognize one of these places? First, don't dismiss it as just a dream. Acknowledge the repetition. Say silently upon waking, I remember the place. I welcome the message. Second, begin to map it. Keep a dream journal specifically for that location. Record the layouts, the entrances, the emotions tied to each area. Because over time a pattern will emerge. The architecture of your subconscious is trying to show you something, and the more you pay attention, the more it reveals. Third, engage with it while dreaming. Lucidity is not required, just intention. Before sleep, speak this quietly. If I return to the place tonight, let me walk with awareness. Let me see what I need to see. This invites your higher self to unlock the next layer, and sometimes the entire environment will shift. You'll find the center. You'll remember a truth buried beneath symbolism, or you'll meet a version of yourself who's been waiting there for years. Because that's what these anchors are. Soul sanctuaries. Not built by accident, but encoded with purpose. They are where you return to gather pieces of yourself that can't yet live in your waking life. And with every visit, you bring more of them back, into your body, into your voice, into your path. So the next time you dream of that same strange house, that endless road, that underground library or futuristic garden, don't just wake up and forget. Smile, because you're not lost, you're anchored, and the dream knows the way home. You think you're just noticing something, a thought, a flicker, a person walking past, a number repeating on the dashboard. But in that moment, when your attention lands, something happens. The field responds. Energy crystallizes. And what was once possibility becomes a path. This is the observer's power. And it's more than a spiritual metaphor, it's the law of the universe itself. In quantum mechanics, it's called the observer effect. Particles exist in multiple potential states until they're observed. Once you look, they collapse into a single reality. But this isn't limited to labs or microscopes. It's happening around you, every second. Every time you place your attention on something, especially with emotion, with curiosity, or with intention, you're collapsing waveforms into form. You're choosing the version of the world that continues from that moment. Your attention is not passive, it's not neutral, it's creative. It's the steering wheel of the soul. And the more consciously you observe without judgment, without fear, the more powerfully you can navigate your timeline. You don't just influence reality by acting on it. You influence it by witnessing it. Truly witnessing, with presence, with clarity, with reverence for the fact that your gaze changes the code. This is why certain events happen the moment you notice a pattern, why someone calls you the instant you think of them, why what you fear tends to grow, and what you honor tends to flourish. It's not magic. It's attention. Your observation carries weight, not because your eyes are special, but because consciousness is causal. You are a fractal of the divine source, and when you observe, you participate in the unfolding of the cosmos, not from the outside, but from within. So what does this mean practically? It means the moment you begin to witness your life, not just live it, you shift dimensions. You create a pause between stimulus and response. And in that pause, the waveform trembles. Will you collapse it into an old pattern, or will you choose something new? That moment of choice is the birthplace of timeline shift, and it begins not with action, but with awareness. That's why you can sit still, close your eyes, and change your life. Because when you observe your pain, without fleeing it, you transmute it. When you observe your joy, with gratitude, you amplify it. When you observe your environment, with openness, it reveals its hidden messages. The universe is a mirror, not metaphorically, literally. It's coded to respond to attention. That's why it hides its secrets from those who do not look, and why it opens portals to those who see with intention. So if there's something in your life that feels stuck, look at it, not obsessively, not fearfully, but curiously, compassionately, with full awareness that you are no longer just a character in the scene, you are also the lens that determines how it unfolds. You are both player and projector, both self and source, and the more you witness yourself with loving presence, the more you become free from the loops that kept you small. This is not about controlling reality, it's about collaborating with it, co-creating through conscious seeing. So the next time you catch yourself zoning out, come back to your body, to your breath, to the field of potential that surrounds you like a silent ocean, and say quietly, I see, I choose, I witness with power. Because the you who is awake, who watches with soul instead of fear, is the you who shapes what happens next, not by force, but by presence. And presence changes everything. You feel it before you understand it. A pause in your stomach, a tightening in your chest, a sudden unexplained lightness when someone speaks. You don't know why you feel it. There's no logic, no evidence, no rational reason to say yes or to walk away, but something inside you is already reacting. This is intuition. And it's not guesswork. It's not emotional noise. It's not a soft version of fear. It is a timeline map, a multi-dimensional navigational system gifted to you by your higher self. A compass that draws on data not from the past, but from the future. You are not just reacting to what is, you are responding to what could be, because time isn't linear, and your soul doesn't only live in the now. You exist across multiple timelines simultaneously, and some versions of you have already walked down the path you're standing in front of. So when that strange gut feeling arises, it's not based on nothing, it's based on everything, on timelines you don't remember consciously, but which your deeper self remembers completely. It's your future whispering, I've been here, don't do this again, or this is it, trust the pull. And you feel it in the only place the ego can't override, your body. Because intuition is not always loud. It doesn't explain itself. It doesn't beg for your attention. It trusts you'll hear it, that you'll recognize the shift in tone, that you'll pause before saying yes to something that feels just a little bit off, that you'll notice when your heart races, but it's not excitement, it's a warning. Because intuition doesn't shout. It leads, like a subtle magnetic tug in the direction of alignment. And when you listen, timelines shift. The pain you never had to walk through, that was your intuition's gift. The person you didn't pursue even when everything made sense, That was your higher self pulling you from a karmic loop before it began. And the opportunities you said yes to, before the results were clear, that was your soul remembering the joy that came next. The truth is, you already know which paths hold regret. You just don't remember why. But your intuition does, and it's never been wrong. It's only ever been ignored. So how do you tell the difference between intuition and fear? Intuition is clean. It doesn't spiral. It doesn't panic. It's not loud or defensive. It's just clear. A sudden knowing. A directional hum. Fear screams, explains, and doubts. Intuition whispers and leaves space. When you get that feeling, ask yourself, does this feel like truth or like protection? Is this energy expanding me or shrinking me? Then trust the first impression before your mind rushes in to negotiate, because once the signal is received, the timeline responds. And here's where it gets even deeper. The more you listen to your intuition, the stronger it becomes. Because it trusts you back, it reveals more, it arrives faster. It becomes a fluent language instead of a faint hint, and you begin living in sync with the version of you that has already walked the most aligned path. That's the paradox. You're not using intuition to find your future. You're using it to remember the future you've already chosen. And every time you say yes to a quiet knowing, you close the gap between potential and reality. So when your gut speaks, listen. When your chest pulls away, honor it. When your whole being lights up for no reason, say yes. Because intuition is not mystery, it's memory, echoing forward to bring you home. It happens again. The relationship ends in the same pattern. The opportunity slips through your fingers just like the last one. You find yourself in another argument. Same structure, different person. You pause and wonder, why does this keep happening to me? It feels personal, heavy, maybe even cosmic punishment. But it's not. It's guidance. Not because you're failing, but because you're ready. The universe doesn't repeat itself because it's cruel. It repeats itself because you haven't yet heard what it's trying to say. And it loves you too much to let you miss the message. This is the metaphysical mercy of recurrence. The loops, the patterns, the echoes. They're not evidence of your inadequacy. They're signposts from your higher self. Say, this is where the timeline can shift if you stay conscious long enough to choose differently. Life will repeat the experience until it becomes so familiar that you finally stop reacting from memory and begin responding from presence. That's when the pattern dissolves, not through effort, but through awareness. Because awareness is the key that unlocks the prison of unconscious repetition. It's not about pushing harder, it's about seeing clearer. Every repeat moment is a portal. But here's the catch. You can't think your way out of the loop. You have to feel your way through it. You have to stop numbing, stop blaming, stop pretending it's all happening to you, and instead ask, what am I being shown that I keep turning away from? Because until you tune into the energy underneath the story, to the vibration that keeps attracting the same play with new actors, the loop will continue. Not to shame you, but to support you. The universe is not punishing you with repetition. It's inviting you into mastery. It's saying, this moment again, but this time, you're different. This situation again, but now with new eyes. Because each repetition comes with a chance to pause, to choose differently, to breathe instead of react, to speak from alignment, not defense, to exit the loop not by escaping it, but by completing it. Think of it like a sacred spiral. You're not going in circles. You're going deeper. Each loop brings you closer to the core wound that's ready to heal. Each return visit is a checkpoint on your soul's evolution. And the moment you stop seeing the repetition as failure and start seeing it as finely tuned feedback, everything changes. The suffering fades, the resistance softens, because you realize you're not trapped, you're being taught. And you can graduate at any moment by noticing, by feeling, by honoring the lesson embedded in the loop. So if life feels like déjà vu, if you keep attracting the same dynamic, if the emotional weather never quite clears, don't shame yourself. Don't give up. Just get curious. What are you repeating and why? What belief still needs dissolving? What part of you still needs to be made differently? Because once you make that shift, once you stay conscious in the middle of the moment, you usually avoid or numb. The pattern no longer has to repeat. You've integrated the teaching. You've passed the soul checkpoint. And the lesson transforms into freedom. That's when life begins to unfold with softness, with freshness, with new energy. Because you no longer need the loop to learn. You learned. You remembered. And now the story changes. There's a moment, right before everything changes, when nothing happens. No fireworks, no signs, just stillness. An eerie calm. A pause that feels too quiet, too slow. And your mind might panic. It wants noise, motion, proof that something is happening. But what's actually happening is deeper than movement. It's alignment. It's integration. It's silence. And this silence is not empty. It's charged. It's not the absence of activity. It's the presence of recalibration. This is the metaphysical utility of quietude. The space where the unseen parts of your reality begin rearranging themselves in response to who you've become. Because shifts don't begin with doing, they begin with being. They begin in the dark, in the in-between. In the spaces where sound fades and awareness sharpens. That's where the next version of your life is quietly forming. It's in the moment you don't send the text. In the walk you take alone with no phone, no plan. In the quiet morning where you just stare at the ceiling, sensing something stirring below your awareness. That's where the energy starts to move, where the timeline begins to breathe. You're not waiting, you're holding space for the codes to land, for the internal rewiring to complete. Because if the shift came too early, before you were calibrated, you wouldn't recognize it. You'd miss it, misread it, or sabotage it out of misalignment. So the universe gives you silence to soften, to settle, to attune your frequency to the version of you that can hold what's coming. And here's the paradox. The more uncomfortable the silence, the more potent the transformation. Because silence doesn't mean nothing is happening. It means everything is happening behind the curtain. It's the pause before the symphony, the inhale before the arrow flies. It's the space where divine intelligence gets a word in. Because in silence, ego quiets, narrative dissolves, and soul rises. This is why answers come in the shower, why clarity drops in the middle of the night, why you finally understand something once you stop thinking about it. Silence is not a void, it's a portal, a thin place where insight travels faster than logic, where future echoes can finally be heard, where you remember who you are, because you can finally hear your own frequency without interference. So what should you do in the silence? Nothing, that's the point. But not out of passivity. Out of trust. Out of reverence for the space that's shaping you, even when you can't see the blueprint yet. Let the quiet stretch. Let the nothingness hum. Let yourself feel the discomfort of not knowing without rushing to fill it. Because the longer you can hold the silence, the clearer the signal becomes. This is why ancient initiates spent days in caves, why mystics wandered into the desert, why the deepest answers still arrive in meditation, not conversation. Because noise distracts, but silence delivers. It may not bring answers in words, but it brings peace. And peace is always the first step to real clarity. So if you're in the in-between, if you're not hearing guidance, if nothing seems to be happening, remember this: you're not stuck, you're seeding, and the sprout grows in silence, underground, before it breaks the surface. Trust the dark, trust the stillness, because beneath the silence, something magnificent, is already becoming real. You turn on the radio, or the TV, or a meditation app. There's a brief moment where the sound hasn't loaded yet, just static, a low hum, crackles, white noise that buzzes like a distant storm wrapped in electricity, and usually you skip it. You fast forward. You tune the dial. You wait for the real audio to begin. But what if the message was already there, hidden in the fuzz, coded in the crackle? This is the metaphysical power of listening to static, not metaphorically, literally, because what we call noise might actually be signal, encoded, layered, and only heard by those who listen without expectation. Throughout history, mystics and scientists alike have discovered strange patterns inside white noise. Voices that aren't quite voices, phrases that slip in between frequencies, messages that feel aimed directly at you. Some dismiss it as pareidolia, the mind trying to create meaning from randomness. But what if it's the opposite? What if static is the veil, a vibrational curtain behind which echoes from other timelines bleed through? And your presence, your still, open, curious attention is the antenna that catches what others miss. Because your subconscious doesn't need words. It needs frequency, tone, cadence, and static holds all of them at once. It's the soup of possibility, the audio equivalent of quantum foam, and within it, fragments of thought, of memory, of future, of parallel versions of you trying to signal across layers of time. This is why monks chant, why shamans rattle, why mystics hum in silence, not to fill the void, but to align with it, to tune into the field beneath structure, to enter a state where meaning arises spontaneously from what appears to be nothing. So here's the practice. Find a source of static, radio, analog TV, a white noise generator, even the hum of a fan. Let it play, sit with it, eyes closed, no agenda. Breathe slowly, steadily, and listen, not for sentences, but for patterns, for flickers of familiarity, for the feeling that something just slipped past the edge of perception. It might be a word, a name, a rhythm that matches your heartbeat. It might be silence within the noise. And when it comes, when your spine tingles and your chest hums, and you know something just made contact, don't grasp for it. Just witness. You've entered the decoding zone, where the veil thins not through intellect, but through still listening. Over time, these sessions can become meditative portals, a form of auditory divination. You may begin to receive inner visuals, memories not your own, or emotional downloads that arrive with no story, only sensation. That's because your soul is wired to interpret vibrational data before it ever turns into language. And static is raw vibration, unfiltered potential. And you are the decoder. So next time you hear the buzz, the hum, the unformed backdrop of sound, don't rush past it. Don't dismiss it as filler. Sit and ask, what wants to be heard? Because beneath the noise, there are messages, there are timelines, there are parts of you speaking across dimensions, waiting for you to listen, not with your ears, but with your spirit. You see it once, then again, and again, the same number, the same word, the same person's name spoken by strangers in different rooms. At first you brush it off, a coincidence, but then it happens again, too precise, too personal, too timely. This is not randomness. This is synchronicity, what Carl Jung called meaningful coincidence. But what if it's even more than that? What if synchronicities are not just signs but syntax? What if they are punctuation marks in the sentence of your unfolding life? Markers, breadcrumbs, coordinates on a synchronicity map. Because every time something repeats, every moment you catch your breath and whisper, "That's weird," You're touching the edge of your timeline, and if you track those moments, patterns emerge. They're not just winks from the universe, they're a language. And like any language, it wants to be understood. So here's how you begin building your synchronicity map. Step 1. Write them down. Every strange moment, every repeating number, every bizarre overlap in conversation. Don't judge them, don't rank them, just record them. Treat each one like a data point. Because your mind may forget, but your soul is building a web. Step 2. Look for the clusters. Where do these moments intensify? Right before a big decision? During times of uncertainty? Before or after a shift in your relationships, your work, your energy? Clusters matter. They are the punctuation. They mark the beginning of a new chapter or the closing of an old loop. They tell you, pay attention here. Step 3. Observe the emotion. How do you feel when it happens? Because synchronicity doesn't just speak through repetition, it speaks through resonance. A license plate that matches your birth date might be a sign or it might be nothing, depending on how your body responds. Does your stomach flip? Do your arms tingle? Do you feel sudden peace or eerie déjà vu? That's your confirmation. Synchronicities don't just show up in your environment, they show up in your frequency. Step 4. Connect the dots. What if the song that played yesterday has lyrics that answer the question you're asking today? What if the stranger's name keeps showing up because it's connected to a path you haven't yet said yes to? What if the repeating number isn't just an angel sign, but a code, a timestamp of a future moment already echoing back? Your job isn't to figure it all out. Your job is to notice, to trace the contours, to sketch the map. Over time, this becomes your own metaphysical cartography, a private constellation of signals that form a narrative arc. And the more you map it, the more it speaks. The more you see, the more the field reflects. Because the universe doesn't just speak in synchronicity. It listens for your response. It asks, will you follow the clues? Will you trust the pattern before it makes sense? That's the shift. From randomness to resonance. From events to narrative. Because your life is not a series of accidents, it's a coded timeline. And synchronicities are the luminous breadcrumbs. They don't demand obedience. They invite curiosity. They say, you're getting close. You've been here before. This moment matters. So sketch your map. Keep the notebook. Draw the lines. Mark the days when everything aligned and when everything fell apart. Because both are part of the path. Both are teaching you how to read the unseen. And when you step back, after months, maybe years, you'll begin to see what was always there. A story, written in signs, edited by choice, guided by something deeper than coincidence. Your synchronicity map is not just a record. It's a mirror, showing you how connected you truly are. To time, to self, to the field that's always speaking, waiting for you to connect the dots. There's a whisper in your chest you can't quite explain. A pull that doesn't push forward, it draws you in. You think you're chasing the future, but what if the future is already missing you? What if the version of you who healed, who loved fully, who chose the braver path, what if that you is looking back right now, waiting for you to remember? Because time isn't a line. It's a loop, a spiral, a song. And your most luminous self, the version of you that held the joy, the clarity, the alignment, you've only glimpsed in dreams. That self already exists. They're not waiting for you to become something. They're waiting for you to realize that you already are. Every intuition you've ignored, every synchronicity you've half noticed, every dream you wake from with tears in your eyes, that's not longing, that's recognition. A message from the future, whispering, "Where are you? I'm here. I remember us. Come back to me." Because you are the echo. The footsteps walking backwards into a destiny that already chose you. That's why the pull toward purpose never feels like invention. It feels like remembrance. You're not creating your best self from scratch. You're recovering them, piece by piece, choice by choice, memory by metaphysical memory. This is why the right path often feels oddly familiar. It's not new, it's home. It's the vibration of a timeline that never gave up on you, calling you inward, not forward. And the more you pause and listen, the more you feel that subtle ache, the one that says, there's a life that already knows you. That's not fantasy, it's field resonance. It's your future self, fully formed, fully alive, already aligned, reaching across dimensions to pull you into place. And your job isn't to invent that self, it's to surrender to them, to allow their presence to animate your next move, to feel what they would feel, speak what they would speak, walk how they would walk now. That's how the bridge forms, not through ambition, but through attunement, not by striving to become, but by remembering who you already are beneath the static. So when you feel that sudden burst of clarity, that moment where you know something is about to change, that's not intuition, that's echo. You're hearing the aftershock of your highest self anchoring into your current moment. You're feeling what it's like to be remembered by your own soul, and in those moments you are closer than ever, closer to stepping into the version of you that's already whole, already home, already waiting. So the next time your heart aches for a life you've never lived, don't push it away. Feel it, because that ache, that's the future missing you, and it's calling you back to yourself. You think you need to figure it out, that you need to push, decide, strategize, solve your way into a better life. But what if the shift you're seeking doesn't happen through effort? What if the rewrite of your story doesn't begin with work, but with rest? Because while your conscious mind rests, your soul rewrites. Not in to-do lists, not in deadlines, but in dreams, in recalibrations, in silent downloads that happen when your body lets go. This is the sacred power of rest, not as recovery, but as activation. Because your deepest shifts begin after you stop trying to earn them. When your nervous system stops scanning for danger, when your breath slows, when your resistance fades, that's when the energy starts to move, and as you sleep, the timeline you've been aligning with, it starts writing itself around your new state. But only with one key ingredient: permission. Not from the universe, not from your guides, from you. Your soul is ready. The upgrade is prepared. But you must say, I allow. I surrender. I trust that I can be rewritten in stillness. Because this isn't passive, it's powerful. It's trust in its highest form. Anyone can chase change, but to rest, to let go, to lay your body down knowing the codes are still being installed, the path still being shaped, the inner programming still being cleared. That's next level transformation. Because your energy never sleeps. And when you're not interfering with it through overthinking, it gets to do its most essential work. This is why dreams bring messages. Why sleep is sacred in every spiritual tradition. It's when the veil thins. When your conscious mind is quiet enough for your soul to speak in symbols. When subconscious scripts get rewritten, if you let them. You've probably felt this without knowing. You go to bed feeling stuck, heavy, confused. But you wake up lighter. Something is gone. A pressure, a thought loop, a fear that no longer fits. Nothing happened right except everything did. You allowed rest to realign your trajectory. That's not laziness, that's alchemical integration. Your spirit doesn't need you to micromanage your destiny. It needs you to listen, and the most profound listening happens in rest. So if you're tired, if things feel stuck, if your mind is trying to logic its way through the unknown, stop, breathe, lay down, even for a few minutes. Even if you don't sleep, just allow stillness. Let the current carry you, let the upgrades happen without your conscious control. Because this is the paradox. The more you rest, the faster things move. The more you surrender, the clearer things become. Because it's not your thoughts that unlock new timelines, it's your frequency. And rest is how your frequency recalibrates to meet the future that's already trying to reach you. So tonight, before bed, don't just hope for change, invite it. Whisper softly, I give permission to be rewritten in my sleep. I trust what's aligning even if I can't see it. I allow rest to be the miracle. And then drift. Because beyond the noise, beyond the thoughts, your new life is forming. While you rest, breathe in, hold, breathe out again. But this time, do it with awareness. Not just of your body, but of your timeline. Because breath is not just air, it's instruction. Every inhale is a summons, every exhale is a release, and when done with intention, breath becomes a metaphysical tool, a lever to shift between dimensions. This is dimensional breathing, not a trick, not a hack, but a remembering that your breath is a dial on the radio of reality. You are not stuck in the version of life you're currently in. You're tuned to it, and the tuner is your nervous system, your frequency, your field. And nothing shifts that field faster, deeper, and more completely than your breath. Because breath bypasses logic. It's older than language. Older than identity. It speaks directly to source. When you change your breath rhythm, you signal the quantum field. You say, I'm ready to receive from another version of myself. So here's the technique. Simple, subtle, but powerful. Start by closing your eyes. And imagine the version of you that already lives in the reality you desire. The version who chose differently. Who aligns sooner. Who speaks with clarity, walks with purpose, glows without explanation. See them, feel them. Don't try to reach them. Breathe them in. Inhale deeply, pulling their energy into your chest. Hold it for a moment. Let it fuse. Then exhale, and with that breath release the identity that kept you small. The fear, the doubt, the false timeline that no longer serves you. Again, inhale the future you. Hold. Exhale the expired self. Do this not once, but rhythmically, repetitively, until your body starts to change temperature, until your thoughts pause, until you feel the timeline shift. It's not imagination, into attunement, because the quantum field doesn't respond to your words, it responds to your state, and dimensional breathing shifts your state faster than hours of thinking, journaling, or planning. This is why breathwork is ancient, why every spiritual tradition returns to the breath. Because when your breath becomes intentional, your reality follows. This isn't about getting high off oxygen, it's about getting aligned with possibility. You're not pulling in air, you're pulling in version. You are breathing from the branch of the timeline where it already worked out, where the peace already exists, where the connection already healed, and with every inhale, you become more like them. Not because you're becoming someone new, but because you're merging with what was always waiting in the field. Your breath is the bridge. Use it, morning, night, when you're stuck, when you're scared, especially when nothing seems to be moving, because that's when dimensional breathing moves you. And once you shift, everything else rearranges. The calls come, the ideas land, the coincidences line up, not by accident, by resonance, because your breath said yes to the version of you who already knows the way. So pause. Right now, one deep breath, just one. Inhale your future, exhale your past. Now again. That's it. The shift already began. You've felt it before. You're in conversation, mid-thought, mid-step, mid-sentence, and suddenly, time blinks. Like the moment stutters. You can't explain it. Nothing happens. But everything stops. Just for a second. The air feels thicker, the light shifts, and your awareness expands without your permission. This is not your imagination. This is time pausing mid-sentence. A phenomenon so subtle most people miss it, but if you're listening, really listening, you'll recognize it for what it is: a metaphysical breath, a signal, a premonition that something is about to arrive, because before intuition enters fully, it first clears space, and that space often feels like time skipping a beat. You weren't dreaming. You didn't zone out. You stepped between frames. You slipped into the silence that precedes spiritual download. This moment is sacred. It is the hallway between logic and knowing, the exact place where your linear mind gives way to your higher awareness. It usually happens when you're close to a decision point, when you're thinking one thing but feeling something else beneath the surface, and the moment stretches, not in hours, but in quality. The conversation goes quiet even if words keep happening. Your body turns inward just enough. A stillness wraps itself around you like a second skin, and you know something is here. Something is trying to get through. This is the moment before the message, before the flash of clarity, before the sense of "I just need to turn left instead," before the sentence is spoken that echoes in your chest for days. Because intuition doesn't always show up loudly. Sometimes it waits for space, a full pause, for that blink in reality where your defenses drop just enough to let a higher intelligence land. That's why the most important decisions often begin with silence, that strange hiccup in the rhythm of life, like reality inhaled and forgot to exhale. You might feel a wave of chills. You might blink slowly, anchoring into your body. You might suddenly lose track of what you were saying because the script just changed. The timeline just rerouted. It's the micro moment of divine interference, not to derail you but to redirect you, to help you feel something you weren't yet ready to hear. So what do you do when it happens? First, don't force it. Don't fill the silence. Let it stretch. Let the moment open. Even if it's half a second, honor it. Notice what follows. The instinct, the sentence that comes next, the image that flashes in your mind like a scene from a future you didn't know you remembered. Because that's what this is, a punctuation in time's sentence, a comma, before the revelation. And those who train their awareness to feel that pause, they receive the message more clearly. Because they didn't override it, they didn't explain it away, they listened. This is the path of the intuitive, not just hearing what others miss, but feeling the moment when something unseen arrives. So the next time your reality stutters, the next time time itself seems to pause for no reason, don't rush to resume the moment. Trust it. Feel the message beneath the silence, and know you're not being interrupted. You're being invited. You open your eyes. The room is quiet. Your body still half asleep, and there it is. A word, a phrase, a sentence you didn't think, but one that arrived. Sometimes it makes no sense, sometimes it's so clear it feels tattooed into your thoughts. And in that groggy moment between dream and day you wonder, why am I thinking about that? But it's not just a thought, it's a final signal. The last whisper from the other side of sleep, the last message from your subconscious, or from the timeline you just visited. Because when you dream, you travel. Your awareness moves through memory, emotion, alternate versions of reality. Your soul walks through possibility. And as you return, your conscious mind can't carry it all. But it can carry one thing, one word, like a breadcrumb dropped at the threshold, a key, a frequency marker, a portal encoded in language. That word you wake with, that phrase you didn't choose but can't forget, that's the summary of a journey you don't remember, but that changed you. It's the conclusion of the night's unwritten story, the final signal before the door closes, and it's meant to be captured, because if you wait, it fades, buried by emails and coffee and noise. It vanishes like vapor unless you honor it. So write it down. Even if it seems meaningless, even if it's strange, even if it's just a color or a phrase you haven't heard in years, because these words are often code, and code unravels later, sometimes days later. Something clicks. You meet someone with that name. You hear that phrase again in a book or song. You realize the word was a metaphor, something you needed to hear before making a choice you didn't know was coming. And in that moment you remember, oh, that wasn't random. It was a placement, a seed from the future, planted through the soil of your sleeping mind. And here's the secret. The more you listen, the more you receive. Because your subconscious learns what you pay attention to. It adapts. If you ignore the messages, they quiet down. But if you honor them, by writing, reflecting, even whispering a thank you as you wake, then the channel widens. The phrases grow more detailed, the insights more profound, and you begin each day in sync with your deeper knowing. It's not a productivity trick, it's a metaphysical ritual. Because what arrives in that first waking breath, that's the bridge between what you dreamed and what you're about to become. So tomorrow, when you open your eyes and the world hasn't fully loaded yet, listen. What's the phrase? What's the word? Don't analyze it, just receive it. Write it down. Let it live in your field. Because the you that walked through the dream remembered just enough to bring you back a gift